Bum, 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 bum. Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to our final season 4 discussion here on Fans of S.H.I.E.L.D. Digging in, of course, into the last arc of season 4, Agents of Hydra. Really excited to get in on this one. So let's introduce our crew again and get things started. As always, joining me up here on top from Smirking Gun Reviews, we got this guy here, Rob Stone.
What's up, everybody? Yes, it's been a long journey for all of us to get here. Anybody who follows my channel knows that I'm just now releasing season 4, and the joke's been that these have been pre-recorded, and I just finished recording episode 22 Monday. And so there's a lot of stuff still to come out, and here we are getting ready to talk about the last arc of this show, of this season. And it certainly is going to go out with a bang and then shoot up into space. And that means we got to bring it down here, right below me, to the apartment below with all the music playing. We got Mr. Agent Don Willie.
Greetings, everyone. Man, oh man, spectacular end to a great season, and the concept that they brought in with the whole splitting into 3 arcs that ultimately culminate in one massive show of force, man. And side note, this t-shirt right here was from the Comic-Con from that same year that this season came out. And yes, although there is the eagle from S.H.I.E.L.D., if you guys have ever seen this in person, you will notice, kind of in Braille, there is Hydra inside. So, very, very special shirt for a very special season.
Very appropriate. Very appropriate. And of course, in the box right below me, it's our very own Agent Corrie.
Hey ho, everybody! I'm very excited to finish up this season. This season was great. It's such a good season, and this arc is just, stressful, fun, infuriating, rewarding. There's so much going on in this arc. So let's dig in.
Does kind of have it all. Want to be sure to thank everybody joining us live in the chat. Silva Surfa always here, along with Devra and Babara, as are always our constant companions. We love that you're here with like every show we do. You are so awesome. But I do want to thank everybody who is joining us in the archives as well. Please be sure to like and subscribe, do all those standard things. And yeah, if you do want to dive more into season 4, please be sure to check out Rob's reviews when they drop. So yeah, let's get into things. Now we've been rotating around these past couple of episodes, couple of specials here, and how we're sort of presenting things. So we're going to kick things off with Corrie here. But because Rob has just finished up a whole bunch of these, especially tail end season 4 reviews, he's going to be playing wrap up for us now. Pick up all the little things that I'm sure we're going to miss. So, Corrie, why don't you kick things off for us? Episode 17, What If?
Rob
titled episode.
Yeah, Rob's going to be playing the, Black Widow on the motorcycle role of like, I'm constantly picking up after you guys. What are you dropping in the review? So, what if crazy, fun episode, really surprising episode. I love that we actually have a TV show now called What If, which is based on the comics What If, and it really started here with the original What If in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which was the S.H.I.E.L.D. episode. And we find out, both Skye and Gemma have plugged into the framework, and Skye wakes up having a bath in her apartment realizes there's somebody else in the apartment, thinks that maybe it's Lincoln, and we get surprise, surprise, it's not Lincoln, it's Ward. And, you know, not only is it Ward, but he's her boyfriend. And I love the scene where she's like this. He's like, what, or is this something we're doing now? Like, weirdo, get ready for work. You know, because she was ready to quake his butt out of that bed and out the window. But no, so yeah, very shocking. We find out that we've woken up in this like hellscape where Hydra is in control and there's a war against Inhumans, and it's like Nazi Germany where everyone is terrified and being pulled off the street, and you need your IDs and you can't go anywhere. And Skye is a member of Hydra? What? So yeah, a lot of mind-blowing moments right from the get-go. I love that Ward uses that line again of, there are things about me you wouldn't like if you knew. But it means something totally different in this scenario. And we find out later on in the episode that he's actually the mole in Hydra, working and helping with the shield resistance, which I was like, yes, finally Ward is good. Finally we see like a redemptive Ward that's, you know, on our side and not trying to kill all the agents. So I liked that. You know, Daisy does this research and she's looking on the computer files and finding out that all these people that they've worked with have died. A lot of the Inhumans died during testing, and we hear about a person called the Doctor who's running SHIELD. We find out about that later. And Simmons just crawls out of a grave, and she has bullet holes in her shirt. So, of course, being the logical thinker she is, she's like, oh, I was murdered. Lovely. So Simmons was murdered, and Daisy is working for Hydra. Like, yeah, that's the first welcome to the new arc. I really like the scenes that show how much the world has changed and how different things are, especially when Gemma's trying to get a grasp on what's going on. Like, she tries to get a ride, she hitchhikes with this lady, and she ends up getting kicked out of the car because she doesn't have an ID. And as soon as she shows her SHIELD ID, the woman who's picked her up completely freaks out. So we know that there's this kind of this fascist, terroristic type state going on, and nobody's really safe. And I love the line that May says later on in the season, how did a little Pop-Tart like you evade capture? But, you know, Gemma's smart. She's learned a lot. We learned that what kicked off this whole Hydra taking over was actually Bahrain. And it's the fact that May didn't kill the girl. She saved the girl. And the girl ends up just destroying everything. I don't know if she like touched everybody and made them go crazy or what she did, but there was a huge incident. They call it the Cambridge incident. And that's what sparked the fear of the Inhumans. It's what gave fuel to the Human First movement. And this is what allowed Hydra to take over, because they blame SHIELD for everything, blame May for everything, I'm assuming, because she is at the heart of that all. And now this is the world that we live in, this crazy fascist state. I love that when Skye is an agent, or Daisy is an agent, she's brought in to interrogate VJ. So we see VJ again, who we'd seen previously in the season, as an Inhuman. And I remember when Phil punches him, or not Phil, sorry, when Ward punches him out, Phil would never punch him out. When Ward punches him out, I remember thinking, that's highly suspicious. And that's when I started immediately wondering if Ward was trying to cover something up, and what was he trying to cover up, and is he possibly helping the resistance? Like, that's where the seeds started to be planted of why did he react so suddenly. They were getting some information out of this guy, and he just shut him down by punching his lights out. What else? Simmons is I'm always impressed with how resourceful Simmons is, because even in this crazy world, she's able to figure out where Phil is. She goes to where he's working, and he's working as a teacher. And we find out that he actually turned down the offer to be an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. because he thought it was too much work and too dangerous, and he wasn't certain. And it reminded me, there's a YouTuber that I watch, and I remember one of her videos, she talked about she was tapped on the shoulder for the FBI when she was in university, because she was studying psychology, and apparently she was really good. And she said that her fear of not being good enough or not being able to do it was what made her turn it down. And then I remember her next line was, "Do I regret it?" And she said, "Yes, every single day I get up. Yes, I regret it." And that comment that Phil said as a character made me think of that. And, one decision, like, people don't regret the things they've done generally. They regret the things they haven't done when they're on their deathbed. And so,
True.
if you've been tapped on the shoulder for something, or if an opportunity has come up, take a chance, take a leap, do it. This is my little encouragement speech. Do it, try. What's the worst that can happen? It doesn't work out. Then you move on to the next thing. But if you don't try, you're always going to wish you had. So learn from Phil's mistakes. And
Do
it. So Phil totally freaks out, doesn't understand what Gemma is talking about, calls her into Hydra, reports her as a subversive. We see that his students can be just pulled out of class for any reason, which is terrifying. And as someone who works in the education industry, that is terrifying, because I might give you very harsh marks on your essays, but I care about you. That's why you're getting harsh marks on your essays, trying to make you better at what you do. I would not want to be handing my students over to a fascist state. That's messed up and crazy pants. Yes, so I love also that Phil remembers things from the framework. So we see that he's been doing these sketches, which is kind of a callback to the drawings that he was doing, like the crazy alien drawings he was carving into the wall. Kind of similar thing. So he's been drawing birds that kind of look like the shield symbol. He clipped out an ad for the Kloss string cello quartet, which of course the cellist. He has a calendar that has a picture of a car similar to Lola, her make and model. He's got a postcard, greetings from Tahiti, things like that. And he's remembering the line, "It's a magical place." And he has lines written, like lines that a teacher would give a student, "I will not, chew gum in class. I will not chew gum in class," right? Of Tahiti. It's a magical place. So I love seeing those little bits and pieces where he knows something isn't right, but he can't put it together. Great line. Gemma and Sky or Daisy finally meet up. And Sky's like, "Are you still dead?" And Gemma, "No, I'm feeling much better. Thank you." Just like, oh, Gemma. Okay, yeah. We learned that removing people's biggest regrets changes who the person is. And so true, so true. Oftentimes, the biggest regret you have makes you into the person you are now. It fuels you to change and be better. You learn from it. The biggest losses in your life change who you are. They make you more empathetic. If you lose, your mother or your father at a young age, that changes who you are as a person. And so, yeah, absolutely, they're right about that. And I love that little speech that Daisy gives when she breaks into Phil's car late at night to try to contact him. And she says, "You're the person I go to when things get heavy and the world is scary and nothing makes sense. You're the closest thing I have to family. So I just hope that deep down you feel it too." And he does remember her. And so in honor of this, I had to cut my hair like Daisy. So there you go. You get a Daisy cut.
Marvelous. Looks great. This is one of the episodes that actually made me so happy and actually made me mad as well. because it's so good. It really does. It moves. It's fast paced. It introduces all of the characters. It catches up to where we are. It has so much to it. And a lot of it begins to be the payoff of these characters, not only the season, but of previous season. It's the writing building on top and giving us reward on reward for the next step. And it makes me mad just because I really think this was the pinnacle of the writing and everything else on the show.
Yeah.
And afterwards, I mean, we'll get into that later on at a point, but yeah, it was just one of those like, God, this is so good. What? Yeah, and our introduction to the framework again is beautiful. It's shocking. It's terrifying, but ultimately, and I won't dwell into this too much because I know somebody who's really going to want to get into it. It's so goddamn good to see Ward. Brett Dalton popping back in on this. I mean, seriously, and it's Hero Ward. It's like it gives us the old original team vibes again in all of the best ways. And it was just, I gotta say, man, I really enjoyed seeing Ward come in. We've got mentions here in the chat about the Doctor, of course, Ian's a take on a Dark Fitz, which is so very Nazi and perfect and just such a different character. How everybody brings this sort of twisted version, him being the most, is awesome. And yeah, the post-credit scene where we have Daisy in the car with Phil. And she just opens up and he's pushing against so much. And at the end, he just does that. Daisy?
Yep.
Look, man, welling every time coming up. It's just, it was a beautiful bit. So yeah. Yeah. And Gemma double tapped in the chest, 2 in the chest. That's what took her down. It was just, yeah, I'm going to move this on. Let's throw this down to Don, and then we'll wrap up with Rob here, because I know that Don will go into the whole Ward Fest. But yeah, kicking off this final arc with an episode that is so meaty and well-paced. Mwah, God, love it. Don, why don't you tell us about your take on What If?
So this was such a brilliant episode. I mean, first off, Ward is back. Can we just say a few praises for Brett Dalton and for the character of Grant Ward, the greatest of all SHIELD agents, or Hydra agents at this point in the framework.
Sure, yeah.
So, obviously, that was. I remember seeing the commercials when they were going to bring him back, and I'm like, wait, what is Ward coming back for? What are they going to do? So, me seeing this originally, I'm like, wow, this is awesome. Because when AIDA, said the whole thing about taking away one regret, and that being the catalyst for all the change, I was like, wait, so she really was in love with Ward? Oh my God, wow. Because, when she woke up, the first thing she was like, Lincoln, at the end of last episode, so to actually see Ward there, and that was hilarious. He's like,
There's a thing we do now?
So that was actually hilarious to see. And the mentions of the Doctor, at first it's like, okay, who's the Doctor? You're thinking it's maybe Daniel Whitehall, or who knows, maybe they got Toby Jones to guest star or something, and it turns out to be Fitz. And it's like, I'm okay, he's different. Why is he so different? And why do I like the fact that he's just pure fucking evil right now? Like, this is Joseph Mengele in the flesh. I shouldn't be liking him. you know, yeah, but it was just something. I guess it was just the shock of it all that because we're used to seeing Fitz be kind of this really nervous, even though he's gotten more confident over the seasons. He's kind of this nervous, kind of jumpy guy's a little nerdy, and so to see him in this context where he's confident, stout, he's baseline, everything's like this, he's got everything under control. And it's just like, wow. You know what's the crazy thing though? He had the kind of 5 o'clock shadow, and for some reason it never registered in my mind until he went full doctor that he even had the 5 o'clock shadow. He had it before, and like it wasn't until he went into doctor mode that it seemed almost like evil Spock like to a certain extent. So yeah, AIDA, who is now Madam Hydra and is going by a new name, which I'm like, oh, so she's just okay. I'm like, I don't know why Ophelia, but it works for me. And then, oh, come on, we got to talk about how beautiful the Triskelion looked. Forget about the Hydra logo on it, but the fact that looked movie quality. Like you could sit that right next to Captain America: The Winter Soldier, and no one is gonna be like, "Oh man, it looks so fake." No. They did an excellent job with that, and I absolutely loved it. But just to see the changes, I mean, May standing in the Triskelion, overlooking the whole like bay in DC. Yeah, that was just man, oh man, beautiful camera work. And Gemma, waking up in this world having no idea what's going on, and then find out, oh, I was dead, and having to like crawl out of the ground, get your wits about you, navigate this whole thing, and then find out, oh wait, I still got a shield ID, and apparently Hydra rules the world. Oh, yeah, this is how do I survive this? Because that would be my first thing. I'm like, okay, yeah, how am I supposed to be surviving this place that essentially I'm pretty sure wants to kill me? So you gotta give all props to Gemma Simmons for figuring it out. Yeah, so I mean, I don't have much more to say, than that. I mean, I loved this episode, and the fact that it was called "What If." I mean, it's funny because it's kind of like, all right, but everything they've been doing with the MCU and Marvel Television, et cetera, it's kind of almost like, all right, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is now kind of already a what if, and then there's a what if inside of that what if. So there's what ifception going on right now. But I love it. I'm here for every minute of it.
Oh yeah. A world within a world within a world within a world. Perfect. All right, Rob, what was your thoughts here on What If? Yep, you're on mute.
Got so busy listening, just got so into listening that I forgot that my mic was off. So to quote Gemma, like this is kind of how I feel about this, is that, she's talking to Ward and she's like, so you're Hydra and you've been protecting Sky. And it's like, well, that's why I joined the Resistance. And she looks at Daisy and she's like, always the double agent. And that, of course, you two, you woke up, this is who you woke up with. You two were together. This is not the framework. This is hell. Because honestly, again, leave it to a damn robot a program, an artificial intelligence to think this is what we want. These are the regrets that they have. This is what I think will work best for them. It's like it doesn't know us. It's like filling in like what we really want without really knowing. And none of this
autocorrect.
Yeah, basically, because none of this is like are great choices for anyone. And I think a lot of it, so much of it also is her agenda in the end to be with Fitz and to get Fitz. So like I feel like even the AI is lying to itself even there, where it's just like, oh no, this is for you guys, when really it's for her. And so much of this is for her. Who would killing Gemma especially, completely removing her from everything, just, well, she's not here, so we'll just kill her off and wipe her away. And again, I just freaking AIDA and her just manipulation and her delusion. And then seeing Ward, though, is Brett Dalton. When he was killed off, it was time for his character to go. But at the same time, when you get the opportunity to do a storyline like this, and you can bring Ward back in any fashion, he's the best. He was, because let's face it, when we first introduced a Ward, he's like the best agent. He's like the most capable agent in that very first scene that we get. He's James Bond. He's the guy that we want to follow. And then he becomes an agent of Hydra, and he's like the best, he's like, no matter where he goes, he's like the best at what he does. Unfortunately, he's just also psychotic. But now in this framework, we can get to see a Ward without all of that other stuff. And it's just, it's the Ward that we wanted to see, even if it's still a twisted version of AIDA's. And that just elevates it so much. And then this is just like the tip of the iceberg for what we're going to get, is getting good Ward. He's not really Hydra. He's Resistance. He's fighting for the side of good. And it gets you just all those feelings that you had way back in season 1, where you're like, what if Ward was never Hydra? Like there's the what if, like in this episode for me. And yeah, all the little things in here, they're just amazing. But that's, to me, like the stuff that really makes this episode great. I'm done.
Yeah. Beautiful coverage, Nash. Way to wrap all of that up. All right. So I guess that leads episode 17 with me. That is Identity and Change. And where What Ifs kind of establishes the world. This is where we start to get a little bit deeper into everyone, get to see what the little changes are. I mean, again, we kick things off with the follow-up to Daisy and Phil's scene is now they're talking and he does remember things. And we get to find out that Tahiti might have been the thing that actually helped him remember, because his brain has already been reprogrammed. That's why he can hold these different realities and stuff, which is, again, just a nice playback to character. We also get the mind control soap line, the blue soap, which we do see later on in WandaVision. We're going to say it. We're just going to say it. But we also see how, in a way, these changes have fixed these regrets, but in some ways also replaced them as well. We get Mac, who is living with his daughter, Hope, but he lives in constant fear now of losing her. Now that he has her back, he's basically constant fear of losing her, of watching out for Hydra, of, minding their P's and Q's and everything. So it's Mac, but just a slightly twisted version of that. You mentioned May is responsible because she saved the girl in Bahrain. The girl eventually goes in some Cambridge incident, we're assuming, touches everyone and causes a bunch of murders and death. And that's what allows Hydra to come forward and sort of defeat S.H.I.E.L.D. So while we replace the regret for May of the, oh my God, I killed a kid, and what that kind of shut her down, now we get the one that has the regret of not killing her, who's borderline psychotic. She is almost can't contain her emotions. They're almost always bubbling, or she's just driven by rage and doubt and anger and revenge. And again, it's May, well, a little bit of a tweak of May. Jeffrey, on the other hand, is the inhuman director of S.H.I.E.L.D. He is exactly who he wanted to be. And, good for him. He is living that position, and thank God that he does. We have AIDA, terrified of Gemma. Doesn't want Fitz to see her pictures, afraid of what that introduction is going to do. Obviously, she was taken care of back in S.H.I.E.L.D. So it's all of these fun little twists, even through all of the characters of what we get to see. We mentioned the Project Looking Glass and the other side stuff, so we're starting to get those ideas. But yeah, Don, you had mentioned the beauty of the Triskelion. Daisy gets her own elevator fight, and I didn't get a chance to go back and look and see if it's the same floor that the last people get on when she jumps in. And of course they change it. They close the doors and then open back up, and she's gone. You don't want to do like too much of that, but it is kind of a perfect like little elevator fight reference, and she's able to escape instead of having to jump out the window.
Yes.
The smartness of using Mac to trip Daisy. And give it up. Oh yeah, you're Daisy Johnson. You're the thing. Oh, thank God. It just totally walks into it, which is just, again, a beautiful use of how these people would do things. And we get the whole loss of Agnes scene, which not only kind of hits all of us and really humanizes so much of Radcliffe, shows us how much Fitz has changed, but that impact with Gemma and them trying to run off and pull and the shooting coming back and awesome, just shooting at the Quinjet as it goes. I love how, again, they take this, they show us how these little differences has made these effects and allow to build on them even more. It's just, again, an awesomely done episode and nonstop beginning to end, just like the one before it. Don, what about you? What did you think of Identity and Change?
So this was the quintessential Doctor episode, because this was the one where it was like you knew once Fitz wakes up, if he remembers this moment, that he's going to be a scarred man from it, because here you have Ratcliffe, who he does not recognize, which I'm like, damn, that's kind of messed up. Ratcliffe is in this kind of prison of his own making, and AIDA is like, hey, you know what? I will do anything to preserve what I have. And instead of her saying, not even telling the truth, but instead of her saying to Fitz, hey, look, you know what? Yeah, this guy right here, he's a nobody, and the woman who looks like me is a nobody. They're or their family or whatever. You can leave them alone. It's fine. No, she, was like, okay, well, yeah, if she's here, then I'm not number one. So let her die. So this way, there is no competition for who has this form, and the psychological power that comes with having, the form of Agnes. So that whole entire time where Ward is like, yo, I've got the shot, I will take him down right now. And Gemma's like, no, that's a good person. I'm in love with him. You don't understand. He'd never do the things that you're talking about. Like, she has no idea that Ward at this point has however many years have been programmed into him, having been a Hydra agent. All those years of whatever the doctor has supposedly done are already programmed into his head. So he's like, him? No, there's no way that guy right there is the loving, caring person that you're talking about. It's not possible. It can't be. And yet somehow you believe it to the point where I'm questioning whether or not what I know to be true is real. And unfortunately, this was the thing that now had Gemma like, oh man, maybe Leopold Fitz is gone, at least here, because we see what happens later when they actually do get out of the framework, what Gemma does. Man, Jeffrey Mace finally getting to be the person he pretended to be for all that time. And what's the funny thing? Totally forgot that they basically made him a Captain America knockoff, because it's like he's also from Brooklyn.
I missed that part. Yeah,
I'm like, until I watched it again, I was like, wait, what? I didn't remember him being from Brooklyn as well. Okay, all right. Then think about it. He's called Patriot, right? He runs around in the SHIELD outfit. He's from Brooklyn. He's got inhuman super strength. I'm like, oh man, okay, they really leaned into the Captain America thing, because in the comic books, Jeffrey Mace actually is a replacement Captain America for a little bit. So,
yeah.
Kind of an Easter egg there for comic book readers, or longtime Agents of SHIELD fans or whatever may have you. So that was interesting that they did that, and then the whole thing with Mac and Hope. It's like you knew from the moment you see him with that little girl, it's like, oh, there's unless they were gonna do what AIDA had planned on doing with like making the live bodies, unless that was gonna be the thing. It's like, oh man, this can only end one way, and that way is absolutely horrible. And so for May, man, what a horrible person she has become due to Bahrain. But yeah, they for her to use his daughter like that, because the court. Now, here's one thing I have to question though. How did May know what to tell Mac? Because Mac wasn't necessarily on their radar, so it was like, okay, well, what did he get picked up for? Because at first he thought it was the drone, and then it's like, no, you're not getting picked up for the drone. We need you to basically trick this agent into admitting she's a spy. That she's a double agent. I was about to say, I'm like, no, she's already a spy. So yeah, they have to, get her to admit that she's a double agent. So I'm like, wait, how did they have that information unless Madam Hydra gave it at some point? I mean, which they didn't necessarily explain. All we see is Matt gets picked up, and then May is like, oh, you're in big trouble. It's like, oh, I'll do anything, to not be in trouble. And it's like, okay, this is odd. So I mean, maybe like at least one line of dialogue to kind of, make the connection there. Unless I missed something, I don't think I did, but because I remember replaying that part over again to see if I had missed something. Yeah, but between that and then I'm like, damn, how are you people so evil? Just wow. Oh my god. Yeah, the amount of just pure, unadulterated evil permeating throughout the framework was just, oh my god, you know. But hey, at least Phil is not buying into it. He's got his own soap, so they can't control his mind. Uh,
He's making his
yeah,
own soap.
Yeah.
yeah,
It's the liberal application of alternative facts is what creates Hydra.
yeah, yeah.
Corey,
Oh.
what was your take on identity and change?
Oh goodness. I love that we have one person who believes Daisy. Phil believes Daisy. And so that was kind of like, oh, and I never thought I would be cheering to have Ward on the screen. But when we find out that he's actually working for resistance, I was like, oh, thank heavens there's somebody on our side. Because it's like, I felt like, Captain America against Thanos and the entire army. I'm going like, come on, somebody's got to join us. It's just Simmons and Daisy, we're gonna get killed. This is not gonna go end well. I was very angry with Hope in the first bit of the episode because she brings this stupid drone with her in her backpack to school. It's like, listen to your father. What did he tell you? He said, leave it with me. I will deal with it. And then what does she do? Oh, I'll fix it myself. I'll just bring it in a backpack out into the public with all the Hydra people who are searching for any possible reason to lock us up for life. Anyway, I would have just been like, you idiot. You're going to get us all killed. Anyway, yeah, I didn't have a lot of sympathy for her in that scene. We noticed that basically AIDA has reprogrammed her life story to be Simmons. Because Fitz tells her he'd cross the universe for her, which is exactly what he did for Simmons. And we find out later that she was the one that he met at this university studying to become a SHIELD agent. It wasn't Simmons, so AIDA basically stole Simmons' life story and plugged herself in as an avatar and is like, I'm taking Fitz now and he will love me. And if he doesn't, I will make him, which is creepy as all can be creepy. We get sort of a parallel scenario where Phil and Simmons meet up with their contact and they're brought in handcuffed with a bag over their head, just like what happened to Simmons earlier in the season, where she's like, lovely, this again, bag over the head. But I love that we have Mace running SHIELD, that he's actually Inhuman, as you guys said. And of course, him being the kind of stand-in for Captain America in the framework, it makes total sense that Phil then fanboys all over the place. He's like, oh my word, this is the Patriot. You were in the Resistance. That's so cool. He's just fanboying over it, just like he did with Captain America, which I thought was kind of cute that they put that in. AIDA, oh my word, the twisted, manipulative lies she tells and how she takes fact and twists it so it will tell the story she wants to tell. Like she tells Fitz that SHIELD treated her as their slave. She was less than human. She paints herself as this victim. We see again later on where she does that. Do you know how degrading it is to be kept in a closet, to be treated as a thing? I'm not your tool. So, without adding in the point that she's not human, she's an artificial intelligence. She's a computer-generated code. But we'll leave that out and we'll just play on their human sympathies. I was also kind of disappointed with how Daisy handled the interrogation room. Because my question was, why would you share any kind of secret intel in an interrogation room? They're monitored. They're video recorded. Why would you do, she's smarter than that. Like, what did she just like, did her brain cells stop working for 5 seconds because she was so panicked and she saw a face she recognized? Like, Daisy, you're smarter than that. Come on, that's like a level 1 agent mistake. Get with the program. So wasn't impressed with that. Also, love the elevator scene, like you guys mentioned. Basically, she's doing a Captain America. What else? Oh, I love how Phil still has the muscle memory, even if his brain isn't telling him he knows things. So when they have the shootout with AIDA and Ward and Fitz and Agnes and whatnot, when Gemma jumps up and she's screaming, "No, Fitz," right? If you watch the scene, you'll see Phil grabs her and he's like covering her with his hand and saying, "No, go, go, go now." And he's shooting. And I'm like, yes, he has the muscle memory. So even if his brain doesn't remember, he's already converting back into the Phil we know, into like the protect people and calling out commands and everything like that. And he tells Simmons there's nothing else you could have done. So again, we're starting to see bits of Phil popping back into the framework in his character. And so I loved that. I just was like, yes, yes, Phil's coming back. Okay, it's going to be all right. We're not going to die. So this arc was very fun, but very stressful, I'll admit. I think that's it. That's it. Yeah, and then Gemma just won't tell the Patriot why they left Fitz alive. I don't know. I mean, if I was in the situation, I'd probably be sharing as much information as I could, but I understand that she's also doesn't have any reason to believe that they would believe her, and they're just going to think she's crazy. So, yeah. So that's it. Oh, you're muted, Darren.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was going to say it does sound a little off. Not right. Rob, do you have any final thoughts there on identity and change?
Yeah, they already have enough problems at this point that if they were to be locked up, every second counts. You gotta use that information wisely. So I thought that was handled pretty good. But the thing that I meant to say this about the last episode was that I kept having to remind myself that none of these people are real. None of this is real. All the people we interact with, I don't give a fudge about any of them because they're not real. Aida's not real. She's a freaking robot. And all of this is just make-believe and even hope. And with hope, I give a bit of a pass because it's the connection that she, with that Mac has with her that, it's like the one NPC that I feel bad for because it's only because by its connection to Mac. And yeah, Aida's a robot AI hoe.
Yeah.
Okay. I wrote it in my notes here.
Yeah.
And I was wondering why she even had a shield. And it's like, oh, that's right. Because this is all distraction. This is all theater. This is all just to stretch time out and take out her enemies while she does what she's doing on the outside. And that's even manipulating him about what's really going on in the real world, how they treated her, every single thing. And freaking Radcliffe in this episode is the only one that's like he's trying to reach Fitz while calling her out on everything. Her trying to say, but you programmed me. He is like, don't you don't try to play innocent with me on all of this. You've been manipulating this situation ever since you got here. This was supposed to be a paradise for your friends, and now they're subversives. You are just lying to yourself and everyone else. And she just keeps trying to throw things back at him. Meanwhile, when he gets with Fitz, he's trying to tell him, look, you were like a son to me. We had a relationship, and we helped build this thing that's all like now in control of all of us. And, it's just all about the real world and reality. And I just, this episode really, really brought that home about like, who can you even trust here? you've got Shield that you're supposed to be able to trust, but you can't because they're not real Shield. You're basically just trying to navigate a video game,
yeah,
and not like
end up dead
and make the right choices in said video game, where you don't get yourself, any further, behind. You don't want to lose it. You can't lose. You die here though. You die in the real life. So that's the big difference in this whole thing. But the scene where Fitz kills Agnes was a pretty horrifying moment for pretty much any Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fan, because it did make me question, like, yeah, I know that he's been manipulated and all this is, her doing, and we find out like what she did to get him this way, to help get him this way. But there's always been these signs this season of Fitz going too far for science and his own curiosity and what's possible. And the whole time we've been having people say, you got to stop, you got to pull back, you got to come back to reality. And he's been going headlong into it, making excuses, lying. And I feel like when you see him do something like that, that, and what we know later on, what happens and what he says, it makes it even more interesting. How is he going to handle the real reality, and how much of that really is him? Because we can try to forgive this character, but it's like every human being has got dark and light inside them. And just because we don't want to believe that this isn't him, this is anyone. This isn't just him. This is anybody that could have been. Like, look at May. And I just feel like it really asks a lot of really tough questions about who we are, as who is anybody, given the right circumstances, the right amount of pressure or lack thereof or whatever. And again, it makes me think of Breaking Bad. I won't go down that route of metamorphosis and who you are at your core. Because one of the major parts of this whole arc is, and this whole season has been like who you really are. Whether it's an LMD storyline or this storyline or the beginning of AIDA and what's real, what makes something real. And as we just keep continuing, and it's 17 episodes deep, and we are still getting these amazing questions being asked, put towards us, that keep challenging us as the season goes on to a close. I'm done.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I think that was one thing that they do and stick with very well through this arc is the philosophical questions. At what point are you responsible? Where things are? I mean, I think the next episode specifically deals with a lot of those questions of what makes those changes, and how can that adjust you? But even later on, when we get the question of what was Ada's motivations, how much was hers, how much is she lying, and how much is a perversion of her programming. The fact that they keep those questions going through this arc, I think is one of my favorite parts of it. But yeah, we do have our next episode, and Dawn will be kicking us off with that one. And that's episode 18, No Regrets. A lot of stuff happening in this episode. Dawn?
Okay, so oh man, this one was a hard one. This one was a hard one. We get the return of Agent Antoine Triplet, another fallen agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. who, when he first got introduced, it was like, oh, okay, this guy is all right. Oh, he's with damn it, why am I forgetting his name? Bill Paxton. Why am I not remember the character's name? Sorry, I remember it's Bill Paxton. That's what counts the most.
Garrett.
Anyway, yes, Agent Garrett. But Triplet is a guy who, I think grew on many people and we get him back for a brief period of time. Oh boy. But we also lost the director. Here here we have Jeffrey Mace being the Jeffrey Mace that he always wanted to be. He went out the hero. I gotta say, this was probably one of the only noticeable effect shots for me that actually kind of stuck out this time around when I watched it. I mean, normally the effects don't stick out, but I'm not sure if it was a rendering thing or whatever. But when they brought down the Enlightenment camp with the missile, when it started crumbling after everybody got out, something about it, I don't know, something about the look this time around just didn't hold as firm for me as most other shots. I don't know if any of you.
It was the framework. It was rendering.
That's
Maybe,
a good.
yeah.
That's a good excuse right there. I like that one.
Yeah, I mean they're already in a computer simulation, so yeah.
Yeah, it did look a little faker than most of the effects that they tend to do. You could tell, like, oh, that's a fake building collapsing there.
Yeah, so that was the one thing that kind of got me, but it was but still, gut-wrenching episode. Here we have Coulson at his most Coulson, which was kind of awesome. Him going to save the children. May. She gets her fight because now she has the juice, and she gets to go and fight against Jeffrey Mace and show why she is a badass. And think about how much more of a badass she would be if she had super strength. Pretty sure that is why they didn't give her super strength in any other seasons, because it was like, yeah, she's gonna mop up the floor with anyone she comes across. So we need to have maybe regular May, or else this is just gonna be a series of unfair fights.
That's why they let her get injured for half of the next season. Just to handicap her, literally.
Yeah. So, but we also get Terrigenesis. Now, the one thing that kind of got me about the whole Terrigenesis scene was May stayed inside of the room and apparently did not wind up dying when the Terrigen crystal turned into mist. I'm not sure if there was supposed to be, like, maybe that's a gap in Ada's memory or not.
No, in the LMD one, she pulls out some Terrigen crystals, the one they end up using on Nadir, and Radcliffe specifically says this is a purified Terrigen. It doesn't have the impurities, so it's safe for humans to be exposed to.
Okay, so I missed that line then.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I did notice that it was a much kind of like more like sky blue than the kind of like darker blue of the normal Terrigen crystals. So that was cool to see, Daisy become Quake once more. Yeah, and to finally be putting the pieces back together. Excuse me. Wow. Man, that was kind of weird. Just kind of breathed in and felt like a big air bubble just went like right in my throat. That was wild. Anyway, so yeah, this was a very bittersweet episode because we have the rise of Quake again, but unfortunately the fall of Director Mace. And because it happened in the framework and he was actually hooked up to the framework, he's gone in real life. And it was like, oh, God damn it, Ada, you fucking... Oh, what the... You know, get my hands around your robot neck. Yeah, man. But it was, like I said, bittersweet. I don't have too much more to say about it. It's I already feel like I got kicked in the chest, so I'm going to pass it off to Agent Corrie.
All right, I will do my best. I feel like I have random notes all over the place, but so many things to talk about. I liked that Mace, even though he doesn't fully believe Simmons, he gives her the benefit of the doubt. Like, he has that line where he says, there might be a grain of truth to Simmons' story. So he doesn't immediately shut down, or say she's crazy and lock her up or something. He's willing to see how this plays out. I mean, last episode and this episode, we just have Daisy being tortured by Fitz, which is just horrible. And, she's saying, you don't want to do this. And he's saying, oh, but I do, which is horrible to see. And then AIDA comes in with her manipulative offer of offering Daisy Lincoln Campbell. And I love the line that Daisy says, which shows how much she's grown, because when Lincoln was going to sacrifice himself, she was all about, like, you can't die for me. Don't do this. Like, it's not right. We have to bring him back. We have to turn around the ship. And now she tells AIDA, sometimes what people want isn't right for them. And so yeah, you can offer me Lincoln Campbell, but I'm not going to take it because I know that that is not what's right for me right now. And it's not real. And I'm not going to, satiate myself with a fake version of what I could have had in the real world, as lovely as that might be. And I just think about, like, how strong you would have to be as a person. If someone came to you and was like, hey, that person that you lost who you really love, your wife or your husband or your mother or your brother or whatever, I can give them back to you in exchange for the devil's bargain. And, like, for me, that would be such a tempting offer. I hope I would say no, but man, that would be a tempting offer, because when you've lost someone you really love, just even the idea of getting them back is just, it's a tempting offer. I'll just leave it at that. Sure. And so the fact that she just turns her down flat really made me want to be like, yes, Daisy, like, that takes conviction of conscience and moral conviction and personal strength that's different from superpowers and whatnot. So that, I really liked that scene. We meet Mac and Hope, or Gemma gets to meet them. We get to see the Hydra Enlightenment Center, which is just basically a torture school, which is horrible. And yeah, they're using the same mind control they used on Bakshi. They're taping their eyes back and brainwashing them, similar to, again, Winter Soldier brainwashing. So that's terrifying. We had that lovely line where Ratcliffe explains to Daisy that one regret can change an entire life. And he says, and I quote, one person in your life, one decision, one sentence has the power to change you forever. One single sentence like, I love you, or we're having a baby, or she's gone. And I'm just like, oh, my heart. Yes, it's so true. One person believing in you can make the difference. And we see that with Ward's character, because when it's Agent Hand who goes to pull him out from the juvenile prison and tells him he can be a good man, and then he says, Sky made me believe it, that changes his whole arc as a character in the framework. Completely changes it. So that was a really neat quote and a really neat truth. You could be that one person who makes that change for that one person. And he also mentions that depending on the circumstances, anyone is capable of anything. And I think it's so easy for us to look at history and vilify people who were horrible. Like just for example, like World War II and the Nazis. I'm going to assume that a lot of people that went along with that weren't bad people. They were either forced into it, terrified by it, or felt they had no choice. And that just means those people who stood up against it, who worked with the resistance, like the French resistance, underground resistance during World War II, that takes a certain kind of strength. And so, you know, it's what are the decisions you're going to make when it's a very difficult decision to make. I also like that we see some redeeming elements to Fitz, because he has issues with killing Agnes afterwards. He goes to AIDA and he's like, or no, his father, he's like, what if I didn't need to kill her? What if she was lying? What if, like, he's starting to have all these questions? And it's his father that shuts down that kind of a conversation. And he says, that's your mother talking. You know, if I wanted to have a weak son, I would have left you with your mother. So we get to see that Fitz maybe has some potential for the real Fitz to show up. If he had people like Gemma more in his life and not the father figure, and we get to meet the father figure, Alistair Fitz. What a piece of work. Wow. Oh my word. Like, reminds me of that Shakespeare quote that someone can smile and be a villain. It's just like, oh, it just makes your skin crawl. And he just so verbally abusive and verbally like horrible towards Fitz, and saying, you know, I raised not a coward, but a man of action. In a hard world, we cannot afford the luxury of sympathy. And that the strap teaches respect. And just, taking his mother out of his life. And that was horrible. We get to rescue Trip, as we've all mentioned. I was so excited to see Trip. Oh, I missed him so much. Also, I love that he has that line about, like, what kind of a man steals a man's boots? He, like, pulls the boots off of the guard. And we have a throwback to the Howling Commandos, because he's using his grandfather's old tech and taking pictures. And he has the film stashed in his boots. So that was cool. I like seeing that. What else we have? We talked about May getting the serum again. So it's just the opposite of what Mace was dealing with in the real world, because Mace was taking the serum to become inhuman. We also get to see a bit more of Phil, as you guys had mentioned. He has this line where he says, snap out of it, May. And we kind of see May like look confused for a moment. You know, and I was so frustrated with Mace's death. Just like as Rob was saying, it's a bunch of ones and zeros. They don't exist. The kids aren't real. They're part of a computer program. So yeah, it's great you want to save them, but they're not real. So I was just so frustrated that he died for a bunch of ones and zeros. And I guess the only redeeming part of that is that him dying showed May the kind of person he was. And so that was the change that needed to happen for May to come over to their side. So in a way, Mace saved May and saved the team by pushing them further along the path towards getting back out of the framework and back to reality. So that's the only kind of good I can see out of it. Fitz and his father toast to Mace's death. How sick is that? Oh, just, yeah. And oh yeah, then we see the transition where, again, Daisy becomes inhuman. I love when the conversation they have where May comes in and she's like, is it true you're a human? And Daisy says, powerful enough to bring down this whole place. And this little smile that May gives her when she throws down the crystal. I was like, yes, finally, we're in the game. We're back in the game again. Come on, let's kick some butt and take some names. I'm tired of being on the defensive.
Well, it's nice because I think they actually trade a little smile. I think just before it goes over Daisy's face, she kind of does a little like, it's about to get on, kind of look back, which is kind of a cool little moment.
Yes.
Yeah, you guys actually, I mean, you bring up a lot of the big points that I wanted to kind of jump into right here, mainly in the sense of continuing this philosophical question. What is the importance of belief versus reality, informing your reality and what will allow you to make those changes? Because we've got a lot of this. We have Gemma constantly telling everyone, this is fake. You're fake. It's a fake world, until she meets Hope. And it's at that moment where she sees the reality that Mac has formed with this, that now she can't violate that kind of little area. So it's kind of an interesting little line of where we see. And yeah, I remember when this first happened, there was a lot of discussions about Mace's death and, oh, it was wasted. It's just ones and zeros. I appreciate a lot, Corey, that you totally picked up on, and of course would, that his sacrifice does in fact push May, which saves Daisy, which allows everyone else to eventually get out, because they're about at the end of the success where it's going to be, and it's all going to come down anyway. So if this didn't happen, if his sacrifice didn't happen, the rest of the team might have actually been lost. But from a larger philosophical question, he died the way he wanted to. He was in the framework, the person that he wanted to be, dying, saving other people. And you know, is that a loss then, or is that Mace getting a chance to actually live the life that he always wanted to, that maybe the real world wouldn't have allowed him to do? And again, I don't expect there to be answers with any of this, and to me, that's the bigger point of this, is it's just the question: where are these lines, and where do you go, hey, your belief is wrong, but you have that right to believe it? I mean, this is kind of an extreme standpoint, but obviously we run into that in the rest of our life. To me, the line with that is, well, is it about you, or are you imposing your belief on someone else? To me, that's the line, and I think that's where we get our difference between Shield and Hydra and all of these bigger discussions. We do have Phil becoming more of old Phil. You're right. Trip, first thing he says, May snap out of it. I mean, all these little stuff, the body language, and I love how, especially with him, he gets really into Phil mode more and more as things go on. Yeah, we've got the Terrigen drop. Yeah, and of course Radcliffe's discussion, which you brought up with Daisy, is what can one thing do? People talk about the one bad day for Batman fans, of what can change. What could, that's the difference between him and the Joker's one bad day, they often say. But it can very much be that one singular moment that makes the difference. For Ward, it was Victoria Hand as opposed to Garrett coming to pick him up out of jail, and that totally changed his life and what he thought that he could believe. One small little thing that I did like, and I don't know if this does have an actual reference, but it seems to make sense theme-wise for video game fans, the Enlightenment Center from Portal, run by GLaDOS. Portal, Enlightenment, crazy AI. It seems to fit in, and to me, it's one of those where I got to think one of the writers was like, oh, we got to call it an Enlightenment Center. It fits on so many levels. So, yeah, love that. Rob, do you have any last bits to clean up and fix for us?
Oh, you're muted. You're muted.
Yeah, like we're saying though, that we keep talking about the Mace's death, and none of these people are real, and it's frustrating for me to watch it as well. But at the same time, I know that it's essential because it's how our characters are. They still want to save people, even if they're not real. They can't help it. It's instinctive to just try to save anybody. Even Phil, who's clued in on it now, and the Mace's sacrifice, who again, you know, I was championing Jason O'Mara the whole time because he just always just wanted to help. You know, he just didn't always have the right qualifications, and he was faking it till he literally faking it till he made it.
Yeah.
You know, until AIDA made it possible for him to be the hero that he could be. You know, like in essence, you know, this was one of her mistakes. This was one of the risks that she took by letting this, like, let there be a shield, is this kind of possibility that she couldn't see. And how this was definitely the moment that our May needed to not just see what Mace was, but to see what Hydra was. To really see past like everything that she's been told again and get to the real May, past all the people that are indoctrinated by Hydra. But she was in Hydra because of something that happened to her that had to deal with Inhumans, and now she's realizing that all of what she knows was just more manipulation. And we see that our May was always there, just buried under all this other stuff, which is going to be a huge, like, the May factor, and we'll bring it up, we'll talk about this later, is like, to me, the linchpin of this like whole season. Yeah, that's a great GLaDOS pull, man. That's great. I also want to mention just the actors, David O'Hara, who plays Fitz's dad, great character actor from like Wanted, Braveheart, The Departed. This guy's been around for a while. He's great, and I love that accent. He's just such a great compliment to like Fitz. Like, they got somebody who talks actually like that. You know, they found an actor, and not just some actor, a good actor to play this. Somebody who's good at being this kind of vile, just like almost Dickensian, like, you know, like there's like all sorts of things like Ophelia, you know, like being like, that's Hamlet, baby.
Oh,
the
yeah.
madness of Ophelia, you know, like they don't even pick up on that. I don't even know how many people in the audience picked up on that part. But also BJ Brett, man, when Trip, like when Trip came back, that was like, I mean, look, it was great seeing Ward, man, but like the way Ward went out, you know, but poor Trip, he died like being a hero, and just to see all of a sudden he's just there, and it's just like, oh! I don't usually get like that when I'm watching something like this. So usually a show can't surprise you like that, but to just throw him out there like that was just absolutely freaking amazing. And again, got to give it up, and I should have mentioned it already, that as good as John Hannah has been all season, this arc is where he really blows the doors off this mother. Basically everything Radcliffe gets to say in this last bit is just a gold nugget of just brilliance. So that's what I have to say.
Yeah. Welcome to the John Hannah fan club, folks. We will always talk good stuff about Mr. Hannah. Perfect.
Hold on.
Let's move on.
I got one thing before we move on, though.
Sure, Don. Lincoln.
Rob's looking like, what the hell? Look, such a fan reviled character that I think they pulled the bait and switch with Ward, and all we get is a picture and a mention. They didn't have to have VJ in there, but they did. They could have had Lincoln, and they said no. So just wanted to mention that real quick.
Sure. That's a fair mention. No, I just wanted to jump into a few comments in the chat. First, of course, the Rich Room. Rich, how you doing, man? And Mercenary X84 also popping into the chat. They had a couple little thoughts. Rich was asking, how many superheroes or Inhumans did Hydra kill in this reality to be such a strong, authoritative government?
What?
I don't think they go into any specific numbers. They do mention a few Inhumans that we're aware of later on. Gordon, Lincoln, we had VJ here. But no, they don't go into it. I think they basically kind of, pardon my phraseology, but it's accurate, right-winged the incident up. Is you had the explosion, and then you probably had a bunch of social media talk, and you had a bunch of newscasters going in, and then Hydra pops up and says, oh, it's S.H.I.E.L.D., they're defending Inhumans, and obviously they were already in S.H.I.E.L.D., so they were able to sort of switch things around. So they don't get into the specifics. If anybody, if I'm wrong, anyone here, correct me. But I think it's more the implying of how Hydra was able to use this incident to undermine S.H.I.E.L.D., which is actually something they kind of do later on too, which we'll get into. Rich also imagined a what if Daisy became an Inhuman without her S.H.I.E.L.D. family beside her. She could have been a villain like Fitz, if not under the right circumstances. Yes, and that's very much what I think they were getting into with this. Mercenary X-84, surprised by Ian DeCastecker, didn't think he could play a villain, and it was an interesting twist. Oh, he switches darks. It's like there's not Fitz. This is a totally different person. His body language, his approach. Yeah. I will always say great stuff about Ian DeCastecker. You can actually, if you guys haven't seen, go watch The Shades. It's an early series, only one season, but with him and Daniel Kaluuya together. Really kind of a cool series, and you can see how talented he was young. All right, so we've got our next episode. Corrie is going to lead us off, and that is episode 19, All the Madam's Men. And I'm pretty sure what point you're going to be talking about first. Why'd you lead us off, Corrie?
Perhaps. Maybe I'll be talking about something you don't expect. Well, my first point I have is the Bakshi report. We're introduced to the news. The Bakshi report. I'm like, that guy's back. We have to kill him twice now. But again, it's just like fake news. And all of it is fake news. And it's painting a picture of the world they want people to see. Pleased to report the Patriot has been killed. It reminded me a lot of V for Vendetta. Sure. Because we have that similar TV scene where they take over the TV studio and send off an emergency broadcast. But that's later in the season. I am so glad to see May and Skye finally working together again. I was just like, yes. Or Daisy, I call her both. Doesn't matter. I was just so glad to have our team back together to just, it was wonderful. And the fight scene that when they're breaking out of Hydra, May has this amazing kick flip that she does when she's shooting everybody. I was like, rewind and watch again. We have AIDA identifying, just like you had said, Darren, that all of our characters have a core element that they are, that doesn't change. She says, May, the warrior, Mac, the protector, Fitz, he's a romantic, and then Skye just blasts Madam Hydra out the window. And I was, so happy at that point. One of the best moments of my life. Really just, finally, we get to see her just, yes, right out the window. How many stories down, and just her body to bounce on I got a lot of pleasure out of that. Maybe there's like a dark Fitz in me too. I don't know. It's interesting that when she dies, she doesn't actually die in real life because she's a robot. So she can just pop out of the framework, die, and then come back. She has unlimited lives, which I think is cheating. That's not fair. Then she realizes that Daisy and Simmons are a threat to the framework, so she can now have them killed. So we heard her talking a lot in the previous episodes about how to circumnavigate her protocols, that there's limits on what she can and cannot do based on how Radcliffe has built her. But he himself says she's very smart about working around the rules and regulations he has established in her coding. And he even makes a joke about she'd be a really bad teenager. She'd just be like, well, you said I wasn't allowed to do this, but I'm not doing it. I'm like, I don't know. Like she would just figure out ways to get around it. AIDA is obviously paralyzed because of being thrown out the window. But in true AIDA fashion, she just uses that to her advantage to get sympathy from Fitz, to wrap him tighter around her little finger, to make him more like revenge focused. And now he wants to kill Gemma. And it's just like, oh, that's very frustrating. We learn about Phil's backstory and why he didn't join S.H.I.E.L.D. He said it was, as I said previously, too much responsibility. We learn about Ward's backstory, that it was Hand that gave him a chance. And of course, AIDA doesn't want Fitz to, go running after different members of the S.H.I.E.L.D. team. She just wants him to finish Project Looking Glass, which we find out later is her building that machine from the demonic book so that she herself can become a real girl. Like it's like Pinocchio, but more terrifying, if that's possible. I love that we have more of Trip in this episode, and that he believes Simmons without question. And she's so shocked by this. She's like, wait, you believe me? You don't think I'm crazy? And he has that line, come on, girl. That story is way too crazy to make up. And, he always used that line, come on, girl, right? I look good, when he was in the suit. So I love that sense of humor. I also thought it was hilarious that he's trying to figure out which of the girls on the team he was with. He's like, so you and I, we were like more than friends. This guy's like, nope. He's like, oh, so Simmons and I? She's like, nope. It's like, May? Nope. Like the more he goes down the list, the more he's not sure. He's like, man, come on, there's gotta be some girl here that was hooked up with me. But yeah, so he always makes me laugh. Trip. Awesome character. I found it was kind of sad that we find out Ward really does love Daisy, and that he's been trying to protect her. Like we find out that he's the one that changed her DNA scan in the Hydra system so she wouldn't be flagged as inhuman, which is exactly what Fitz did in the real world when Daisy first turned and Gemma was going a little bit off the rails. So maybe in a weird world, Gemma could have become the Doctor, right? If we took that inhuman fear to its maximum.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, Ward's a good guy in the framework. This is the episode where I was thinking, man, I wish we could bring him back. I wish we could like build a body for him and have him on the team in this form of Ward. That would be good, because then he wouldn't be trying to kill us all. We learn more about Fitz's father, Alistair, and that he actually was a pathetic drunk that didn't recognize his own son's genius. This is what Radcliffe tells him. Mm-hmm. And he's just the guy, like he just punches Radcliffe out cold. Like Alistair Fitz is a beast. Yeah. I love that Phil makes the connection that in order to save the team, they have to first save this digital world that they're in the framework. And so in order to like get everybody on their side, if they save the digital world, maybe they can save the real world too. So, and again, he's being old Phil. He's like not old, but like old version of Phil. Yes. And taking a leadership role. And I'm loving it. I'm like, yes, please give us our old Phil back. We see that Ward offers to stay and make sure the TV programs goes live, which is basically a suicide mission, I'm assuming. And I love that he says he doesn't want Skye to think he's anything like the Ward in the world where she came from. And Skye has this comment of she only understands him, Ward, now after she's met him in the framework. But I had some questions about that, because how can that possibly be that she knows the real Ward now that she's met him in the framework? because AIDA is composing Ward from the memories of people's brains she scanned. She never scanned Ward's brain. He was already dead at that point. So she can't build his character based off of his brain scan or who he really is. She's just building a Ward based on what everybody else of the team remembers from him, and probably specifically what Skye remembers.
I mean, that's fair. This is one of those where you're like, a wizard did it, in which case the Darkhold did it with the knowledge she was able to build the base that organically grew in these directions. So in that sense, she didn't really create anyone, because I mean, even Alistair Fitz would have been someone that she didn't really have much info from outside of Radcliffe.
Memory.
Yeah,
Radcliffe.
or Fitz's. So I mean, again, this is one where you got to kind of go with the ideas. She created a world, altered stuff of the past, and then this is just how it naturally evolved by itself. So,
I mean, my question was, are we seeing an idealized Ward then of what Daisy wished he could be or was?
Well,
who knows, right?
Well, no, because I think this Ward was made before Daisy came in the framework or was scanned or anything like that. So in which case, even the Skye in this world is an imagined Skye that she just stepped into the clothes body of. So yeah, I mean, which
Ward does mention, he's like, do I get my Skye back after all this? Like, yeah. Which was really kind of sad. And then I just love Phil taking over the news station, doing his little speech. You know, a wise man once told me a person can do anything once they're part of something bigger, which is a paraphrase of Fury's speech, which I was like, yes. And then people start gathering outside the newscast building. And of course, Ward assumes this means they've come, it's their Hydra. And we find out, no, they're actually citizens that want to fight back, which I was like, yes, finally. And then the best line, my name is Phil Coulson, and I am an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. I was like, yes, 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 yes. You could probably hear me screaming from my apartment. Yes, finally.
So, yeah. No, perfect way to end that one. Yeah, All the Madam's Men again opens up with, yeah, you already mentioned the great fight scene with Daisy and May escaping, Daisy quaking Madam Hydra, which, yeah, just was a satisfaction for everyone on screen, and everyone in the audience was awesome about that. And of course, the subsequent chase through the city, which just gives us some nice drama through there and kind of further connecting her and May. Gemma and Trip just to find out where they're hoping to find where Ada's machine is. They locate nothing, but realize this is just the framework version of where it actually is, where Anton has a hidden submarine base off of an oil platform. Can't get more Cold War than that. Yeah. Seriously, that's awesome. But yeah, and we also get, while Phil is in Mace's office, one of the files he's going through is the original 084, which we got from the season premiere of season 2, The Diviner, which was just kind of cool. It's a brief file catch, but I thought that it was kind of appropriate that that's what he's looking at. But yeah, we do get the wonderful speech at the end, your standard Coulson speech, bringing people together and exposing truth to the world, the alternate facts line that I had mentioned earlier, which I think was all awesome. This coming fresh off the election of Donald Trump was all kind of perfect in its timing. The nice thing we get from this episode is we get a goodbye to Ward. We don't see him again after this episode. He goes off with the crowd that is there to help them fight off Hydra and does whatever. But it is really nice that we get kind of that connection and that goodbye between Ward and Daisy. We get to find out, like you mentioned, that Ward does care about her, that there is a good man within. And yeah, maybe Daisy, now seeing this good version, is now able to equate all of Ward in her mind, even if this is just a potentiality that, oh, this was a good person that got in a bad situation, and yeah, he was evil and everything he did was wrong, but that wasn't all of who he was. And it's a nice way to finally say goodbye to Ward, because yeah, he was the initial James Bond agent, and then he was the Hydra trader, and then he was the anti-Shield, and then he was Hive. I mean, he had an awesome arc for an actor to play through a character. And just to be able to come in a couple of episodes, was that 4 episodes? 4 episodes, and gives us the Ward return and goodbye that we wanted. I think it was just a beautiful little bit, and I'm glad we got that moment. We even kind of get that with Trip later on, though it's a much shorter thing. But just the fact that we got to have our goodbye, you guys were great together, and now off on to whatever your next adventure, really was, I think, one of the high points of this episode for me. Rob, what did you think? Or sorry, Don, and then we'll match it up with Rob.
Yeah, so I mean, listen, the arc just kept going and going and going, and it was crazy, it was crazy seeing damn it, Daisy. Sorry, I almost got used to calling her Sky again. But her just knocking Ophelia through the damn window, I was like, oh man, this is awesome. It looked great. But yeah, for it to only just break her back, I'm like, okay, it is what it is. It's the framework. So I mean, and plus she's technically still kind of a super robot there. So all right, well, all right. Yeah, the fact that they were able to use the Enlightenment Center footage in order to galvanize people and let them know what was going on was a very good plan. Phil with his, my name is Phil Coulson and I'm an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Man, such a triumphant moment, because it's something that, if you think about it, we actually haven't heard Phil utter that phrase, and not in that regard. So to have this moment where, if this was the real world, I'm not sure how people would take it, but to hell with it. In the digital world, it is absolutely awesome. And to see Phil be his most Phil, I loved every moment of it. And the whole thing with the Russian underground platform. Yes, very, very Cold War. And of course we got, some more of Rob's absolute favorite actor, because he's strong like bull. Oh man, yeah. But yeah, the superior Anton Ivanov, interesting. I don't know why he's the superior, but okay, whatever. I'm not sure how you can be the superior if you're someone's LMD, but all right.
He's the superior man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Strong like bull. Come on, Rob. You know the phrase.
The superior artificial man, apparently.
Oh man. Yeah, but
he's a head above the crowd.
You know that artificial stuff's not good for you. It's all chemicals.
I'll stop. Sorry, go on.
He's practically Iron Man.
Yeah, man, but it was interesting to see what they, that they finally figured out what Project Looking Glass was for, because yeah, you had heard of it, it was like, all right, well, what is this whole thing? Because AIDA was insistent on, nope, whatever you do, whatever you do, go back to finishing Project Looking Glass. Forget about looking for you. Project Looking Glass is all that matters. Get on it. So yeah, that was, just interesting to to see that whole thing. And man, when they finally figure out what the whole thing is about, that was that was, a moment where it's like, oh my god, I can't believe that she's actually gonna be able to pull this off. So I don't have much more to say about this episode because it's the next one that I really, really want to get into. Like the next one is the one I think I think we're gonna really have some hot takes on that one. So I'm gonna pass it off to Mr. Strong Like Bull himself, Rob Stone.
I'm good. Let's move on.
All right, fair enough. Perfect. Okay, so episode 20, Goodbye Cruel World. Yeah, we wrap up the framework in a handful of episodes. As terrifying as that world is, we do move through this really quick. Was that 5 episodes basically with a little tail end afterwards, after ending up with this one? We get to find out what's been happening meanwhile in the real world, with the Zephyr basically flying on Cloak, unlanding for the past 10 days while Daisy and Gemma are in the framework, running out of fuel, running out of power, having to make some tough choices, including turning off the Cloak, which of course is the reason why at the end of last episode, the Russian and AIDA had found the ship. So it kind of, again, boom, gives us our timing, and we have this big rush. That push always helps with these shows and their pacing wise. So of course, got to get everyone together. We've got the exit, which AIDA has brilliantly changed from Radcliffe's original fountain in a park to, nah, it's a steel factory, and you've got to jump into a thing of molten lead to get to the exit. I mean, that's just awesome, cool stuff. Little bit of a Terminator, I think, reference there as well, but we love it. We do manage to get everyone there. Fitz, because he's going after Gemma and won't listen to AIDA to come back. The fact that Phil gets shot before he can go in, and he and May have to do a literal leap of faith into the exit to be sure that it works. And of course, we're still getting your classic Phil isms, even though he's not totally old Phil yet. If we got to give it a shot, you've got the kind of double conversation where it's like they're talking about each other, they're talking about the framework and relationship stuff and many things. It's just, again, wonderful layered stuff. The fact that Radcliffe is the one that turns on Fitz when he's about to shoot Gemma and to get him into the portal, I think this is the great bit. And yeah, more John Hannah praise is going to be coming in right here. The fact that he's twisted and turned, and you think that he's betrayed because now he has this chance of immortality, but he's playing, and he's even like telling them the dark side or the dark hold corrupted me. I can't let it happen to you. I've got to do this. All my point has been to save. It is such a redeeming move for him, and just a perfect way to show that he, even in his mistakes, he really has been trying to do good. And that is what ends up winning over. It's just a great, great perfect arc of redemption for the character that I really loved. And of course, we have Mac's crisis of faith, a literal crisis of faith, as he sees the world around him is in fact fake. I think there's even a point before where they throw a Bible line back in on him that he says about parting the Red Sea. And so it was like, well, maybe you could part the Red Sea and we can get... You did not throw a Bible line back at me, which was awesome. But since faith is such a central tenet of Mac's character, the fact that we actually do get a realistic challenge of faith of what do you believe in, even if you know that it's not true, is that still something that you are willing to hold on to? I mean, again, it's just they're beautiful questions brought up, and I think gets brought up very well later on. Is he knows, but he's choosing to go this way as well. And then of course Fitz finally, after the escape, taken by AIDA. But what we really start getting into through this one and the next episode is the effects of the framework on Fitz, which becomes some of the just best, meatiest character stuff that there is. So Don, let me throw this down to you, since I know you wanted to talk about Goodbye Cruel World.
So let's talk about cruelty. First off, Gemma goes to confront Alistair Fitz and is like, hey, you know what? Your boy wouldn't be like this if it wasn't for you. I'm trying to wake him up. You need to call him. And essentially he calls her bluff. It's like, yeah, okay, you're here, but you won't use that thing on me. You're not gonna kill me. I don't know who you are, but I know who I am and I know who my son is. So yeah, you can do all of the talking that you want to. And he was just like, yeah, look, the subversive is here. Bring on your men. And she was left with no choice but to kill him. It was literally either him or her. Somebody was not leaving that apartment alive. And so Gemma did what she had to do. But obviously, Leopold, the doctor, not a fan. He loved his paw. And no one gets away with shooting my paw dead and thinking that it's just going to be a nice sunny day with some lemonade for him. And we see, Gemma is not able to get Fitz to wake up. I mean, like when he is like on your knees and she, won't go down, he just shoots her in the leg. And like, think about it. When did you ever think that you would see Leopold Fitz shoot Gemma Simmons and nearly shoot her in the head? I mean, this is one of those things where it's just like, oh, okay, wow, this is happening. And when Fitz wakes up out of this, if he still has his memories, oh boy, he's already killed Ratcliffe's reason for being, and he shot the woman that he loves and was going to kill her because of his abusive father, who now is even probably 10 times worse in the framework. And he's gonna have to, it's like that episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation where Picard lives like an entire life in the span of like 2 minutes or something like that. And he wakes up and he's lived a full entire life. He has all the memories and all that. Fitz is gonna have, is gonna have all those memories that he's got to deal with, and making all of these horrible, evil choices. Man, I'm actually surprised that they didn't continue him dealing with that into later seasons. Like there were moments obviously where he was able to channel the Doctor, and I do think there was a fundamental character switch in which we were able to see him he was a lot less nervous going forward, once he was able to gain his confidence back. But it's still one of those things where it's like, yeah, I'm surprised he didn't, say, oh man, this is reminding me way too much of the framework. Let me try to dial it back. So, 6 in one hand, half a dozen with the other when it comes to that. But
just take some torture courses and your confidence goes through the roof.
Yeah. But love the whole scene, of them, Coulson getting him May take the leap of faith. They get out of there, Simmons is able to, finally get out of there. Ratcliffe pushing Fitz out of there. And Daisy getting out of there, but Mac, oh my God, Mac. I mean, because he saw what it was like for real. But again, here he's got, I would say what Hope was like maybe 5 or 6 years old there. He's got those years worth of memories of actually, being Hope's father, and to hear that your daughter isn't real, and then to see that your world isn't real. I mean, it's heartbreaking, because it's like, how do you come back from that, and how do you justify how do you justify within yourself, say, okay, I have this life that I know I lived, but that entire thing is not real. All of the supposed experiences that I have lived for however long that I have been alive, and the experiences that I've had with my daughter, all fake. And that's the one big regret, was that his daughter was not alive. And here he has, pretty much all that he wanted. Like, can you blame the man for not wanting to just jump into that portal and give it all up?
Oh.
It's like the Matrix, was it Cypher?
Mm-hmm.
Cypher couldn't, Cypher knew. He was like, yeah, I know the steak is not real. Might not even taste like real steak, but it's better than out there. I mean, it would be, and see, that was the one thing too. Like, if he, no, but damn, nope, they couldn't do that. If they would have lied to him and said, oh yeah, Hope is in the real world, imagine how crushed he would have been if he would have woke up, to find out that, oh, you guys lied to get me to come back to the real world. I left that one, and this was a lose-lose situation. There really was no good outcome when it comes to Mac on that regard. So it's pain, and more pain. So yeah, I've got nothing further. I'm gonna turn it over to Agent Corrie.
Yeah, I was just so frustrated with Mac. I mean, on the one hand, I understand, but on the other hand, nobody in this world is real. And you have what Yo-Yo said, you have people on this side who love you, who are waiting for you. Like, I don't know. It's a question of, do you want to stay in a fake world reality with somebody you've lost, or do you want to actually live your life and have a future with the people who are there now and whose death is going to affect all of their lives? Like, it just, I don't know. To me, I mean, I know he was responding to what he thought was real, but it's still, at the very core of it, is a selfish decision. It's a decision for himself and not for the team. Like, if you put Phil in that situation, Phil has repeatedly left the women he loved or lost the women he loved. I mean, he had a chance to have a relationship with the cellist and he chose not to because he knew that wouldn't work out. You know, so if it was Phil in that situation, I'm pretty sure he would probably try to leave on a good note, but he would leave. So I found that frustrating. I think it was more heart-wrenching because Yo-Yo was there on the outside waiting for him. He had family. He had a team. So I'm just glad this episode started with hugs, because I think we needed hugs. So Daisy just runs up and hugs Trip, and she's so excited to see him. And he's like, "Hello, person I've never seen before." She's like, "Oh, right. Sorry. I heard about the mission. I was just really happy." So, you know, and they talk about how easy it is to fall into the seduction of it all and to think that it's real, right? And like, May's been in here for how long? So, you know, I can understand how hard it would be for Mac to leave, because for him it seems real. But yeah, just Trip hugs made the whole episode better. All the Trip hugs, please. We find out martial law is now in effect in the state, which is terrifying. Again, I mentioned earlier, Trip tried to figure out which of the girls he was romantically involved with, and he's so depressed it's not any of them. We find out Trip might actually take over as the Patriot, so that was kind of neat and very fitting. He's going to step into Mace's boots, so to speak, and it kind of reflects the Falcon and the Winter Soldier TV show, right? Where we have an African American who is taking on the mantle of the Captain America sort of figure, which is neat to see that reflected a bit in the framework as well. Yeah, you mentioned they find the location. It's over molten lava, which, you know, is always a great way to hide anything because you're not going to go near it. There was some funny little conversation after Phil gets shot and he holds his chest and he says, "Oh, this feels oddly familiar."
Yes.
And I'm like, "Oh, no, not again. Come on, Phil." And I just love the dialogue where he's trying to convince May to come with him, to trust him. It kind of was giving me Aladdin vibes. Like, do you trust me? You know, like, flying carpet, do you trust me? But May says, "How can you be sure?" And Phil says, "I can't be sure. It'll be a leap of faith type of thing," which you guys have all mentioned. May's response is, "It's not that simple for me." And again, she's the person who wants fact and proof. And, you know, she's lived in this fascist state where she's been following blindly, I guess, in a way. She was with S.H.I.E.L.D. Now she's with Hydra. So at this point, she's like, I want to know that what I'm following and putting my faith in is actually worth it and real. And Phil's response is, "Yes, it is. It's simple. Just follow my lead," which was just, oh, my heart. Yes, this is Belinda happening. Keep it up. So I love that little scene. And when they get to the other side, then they're out of the framework. Phil's waiting for her to wake up. He's like, come on, May, you can do it. Jump, just jump. And when she wakes up, her response is, I followed you. And he has this hilarious line of, I'm amazed you came through. I was a little squirrely on the other side. And she says, oh, it was kind of cute. So again, I love that moment. It's sweet that she thinks that his like sort of geeky, squirrely side is adorable. I liked that. We learned that what AIDA stands for, Artificial Intelligent Digital Assistant. And Simmons totally calls Fitz out on it. Stop making excuses for her. It is an it, not a she. I'm like, yes, yes. Daisy, again, telling Mac hope isn't alive in the world. And as we talked about, Mac staying, which I was so frustrated with. What else? Oh, and then the scene at the end that was so frustrating, which is when Fitz shows up and AIDA comes in and she's distracting Fitz and talking to him and trying to get him to focus on her, and May's trying to shoot AIDA, and May is like, Fitz, get out of the way, you know, and he won't move. And I'm like, literally, just shoot him through Fitz. It'll be fine. We'll plug him up with cotton batting and we'll fix him. It'll be fine. Just shoot her through Fitz. I mean, that's what happened to Agent Romanoff. Remember, she was covering her scientist. Soviet slug right through the chest, right? Just shoot AIDA through Fitz. It was very frustrating. I love that Trip stayed with Hope when they were waiting for Mac. And the fact that Trip it was almost implied that he knew what was going on, because he said, I didn't think you'd be back, but I'm glad I don't have to tell her that. And then when they said goodbye, Daisy and Trip, it was almost like he kind of was getting the sense that he didn't exist in that other world, that he had already died. Like the conversation they were having was very cryptic, but I'm wondering if he knew from what she wasn't telling him that he had been killed. And I totally forgot that he had died while trying to rescue Daisy. So that makes that whole scene so much more hard and difficult. Like how hard would that be for Daisy to see Trip and then have to say goodbye to him again? I don't know. I would be if it was me, I'd be inclined to be like, you saved my life. Thank you. Or at least do something to, I don't know.
A hug says it all, man. A hug says it all.
Says it all. And then the last comment I had was that I love the end credit music that we've been having for the last few episodes. It's this very sort of like creepy, scary sounding, I guess, like sort of classical toned, dreamlike music ominous at the end. Yeah, very ominous. And I quite liked that because it left us with this sense of foreboding at the end of every episode. What's going to happen next?
Yeah.
So those are all the notes I have.
Okay. Yeah. No, and again, I thought that was a nice moment where we actually, again, get a goodbye to Trip.
Yeah.
You know, Mac gets to say goodbye because, of course, they had gotten separated in the alien city and Mac got taken over by the, alien whatever. So, again, it's the moment, but at least there was kind of that a loud goodbye. Rob, did you want to cover anything we missed there?
He's good.
No, I don't know. I don't think there's anything that wasn't covered pretty well. And I'm not touching the Mac stuff with a 10-foot pole. If you want to know what I think, if you want to know what I really think, you can wait till my video comes out later on. Who knows when I get to it. So
what are Rob's opinions? Watch Smirking Gun Reviews dropped of Old Shield, new reviews coming to you soon.
No, I just know there's you guys covered it fine. I don't want to recap like for the fourth time. So and the Mac stuff, no, not touching it, not talking about it. No.
Fair enough. All right. So we got 2 episodes left. Let's see if we can push through these all pretty quick. Dom, we're going to have you lead up with The Return. our penultimate episode of the season, back in the real world, mostly.
Yeah, so we're back in the real world. Simmons has shot AIDA and Fitz and has them, locked up in the Zephyr, as as you do.
With your ex-boyfriend?
Yeah, and now we have this whole thing where they're trying to figure out, okay, well, what has AIDA done in the real world that can possibly affect us and make things bad for us? And her releasing Mr. Anton Ivanov and all that has made things complicated, to say the least. So sorry. Ah, man. Felt like something just bit me on my foot. No. I hate the summertime for that. Anyway, yeah, so here we have now the fact that AIDA has inhuman abilities. Yeah, so it was already bad enough when she was the evil robot, and now she is a real person with inhuman abilities. And oh boy. While she initially can't escape the escape-proof room, that doesn't last for too long. And then there's the whole thing. I chose you, now you chose me.
I think you're getting in a little bit on World's End as well, because I don't think she's captured until next episode. Is that right? Until 22?
Wait,
because this is.
I thought
she doesn't get captured until she goes and saves Mac. And that's not till next episode.
Yes. Sorry.
They're being shot out of the sky and everything.
Right. This is where Fitz still tries to convince her to be good. He's like, hey, look, you're in the real world now. You have real feelings. You should be able to feel empathy. Sorry, I was getting ahead of myself.
Yeah. Oh, it's easy to. There's a lot that happens these last two episodes.
Yeah. So yeah, but he does tell her that he does tell her that he still loves Simmons, and she freaks out over that one. Yeah, she does freak out over that one, because that's when they were inside, she was like, oh, well, yeah, just how I feel, or whatever may have you. And wait, wasn't that? Oh,
yeah. No, it's this one where she freaks the hell out.
Yeah.
Instantly.
Yep.
Yeah. She's like, yeah, I only have room in my heart for one woman. She's like, yeah, her. She's like, wait, what? Yeah, the woman that I've been with or wanted to be with for all these years. I'm sorry. I made myself real so that I could be with you, gave myself powers, destroyed lives, countless lives, and killed people so I could be with you. And you tell me you love someone else? How dare you? So, Fitz is lucky that he made it out of there alive. He was able to talk her down from the ledge, but not easy. And then speaking of talking people, down from the ledge, Yo-Yo decided she wanted to go into the framework. Very not smart move, Yo-Yo. Yeah, very not smart move. And because you don't know where he is, you don't know the layout of the world, and you might be public enemy number one by the time you get there. So why do fools fall in love? So they can go inside of a computer generated world and save another fool who won't leave because of his imaginary daughter. Um, so, um, yeah, this was interesting because also now you have General Talbot who is back, who just cannot stop running his mouth. And oh man, it's just funny because Talbot, there's just almost no redeeming qualities to that man. There's just never. He comes in and he's just the most pompous, arrogant jerk, and it's like, dude, like he's like, oh yeah, stop them. They're all robots. You're a robot, and you're a robot. I don't want to hear anything. Shut your robot mouth. And like, dude, we don't have time for this. We don't. Can you just please stop being General Dick for just one moment? Just one moment. All right. You can go back to being General Dick after we've saved the world. But right now, just not be that guy. And it's why couldn't they kill Talbot off sooner? Like, I just
Spoiler: it only gets worse from here.
Yeah. But so yes, Ophelia does do a good thing when she's talked off of the ledge, and is and saves Mac, even though he's still inside the framework, and Yo-Yo decides to jump in like a crazy person. But then we get the nice little pop from Simmons, and we get the return of Ghost Rider. So that was, oh man, it's funny. One of my friends is all hashtag not my Ghost Rider. I'm like, hey, screw you, buddy. It's my Ghost Rider, all right? He drives a dope car. I like his jacket, and the hell with I mean, listen, don't get me wrong. Obviously, Johnny Blaze and Danny Ketch, the original two, good, but I like Robbie Reyes. I want the flaming charger. Okay, I want the charger that spits flames, so I can ride past Dominic Toretto and say, "Oh yeah, this is a true 10-second car. Get the hell out of here, all right, and take your family with you." And I'm done rambling.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You're right. I think she does save Mac in this one because it's next one because that she's captured and they've got to do all that bit. So yeah, at the end of this one, see a lot of stuff happens. Corrie, you want to follow up there on Don's stuff there?
Sure. I think one of the things that we have to remember with AIDA is that, as Fitz says, she has the EI of a toddler, the emotional intelligence of a toddler. She's only been born for a few years, and unlike Vision, who seems to have some sense of manners and how to operate as a person, AIDA is just a toddler having a temper tantrum who now has superpowers, all of the superpowers. She's basically Jack in a woman's body. Just freaking out. One of the bits that made me laugh is the Superior is reading the Darkhold, and he says, "Oh, there are some funny passages in here," as he's turning. And I'm like, what is he reading that's funny in there? What is his like marker for funny? Like, is he like, oh, how to torture people in different dimensions? Hilarious. Like, I don't know what that guy thinks is funny, but that was made me chuckle. I also
He's
love
got a dark sense of humor.
I guess so. Boom, boom.
Sorry. Yeah. Sorry.
The Darkhold gave him a dark sense of humor. I also love the conversations we have with May and Phil, where May's trying to figure out what exactly happened in the frame, like what happened with her robot self while she was in the framework. And she says, "You must have spotted my decoy right away." Phil's like, "Right, because you're never, ever robotic." She's like, "Oh, really? Well, how long did it take you to figure it out?" She's like, "Oh, that long, huh?" And then she's asking him if it got messy. And he's like, "Well, yeah, it got messy." So it was just that how Phil kept evading answering the question was hilarious, and I loved it. We find out this is the episode when we find out that AIDA basically took over Gemma's role in the framework and like inserted her into the Gemma avatar. Mac doesn't remember Yo-Yo, so she shows up in the framework. He has no idea who she is. And I liked that Radcliffe was there because he kind of acted like her guide. Like, "I'll be your spiritual guide to the other side." You know, like he was like the Beetlejuice of the framework, kind of helping her to not get killed. When she shows up, she's strapped into a chair. She's being experimented on by Hydra, so not good. And Radcliffe finds her because all these yo-yos keep showing up in his pockets.
That's next episode.
Oh, is that the next episode? Okay. Sorry. I have it written in here. And then May wants to use the epinephrine to fight off the superior because we have like a whole bunch of superior bots. And she has that line about, that you'll just give me mouth to mouth. I'll be fine if I pass out. And Phil's like just acting weird. She's like, "Did something happen? Did I make a move on you?" He's like, "Yeah." "Did I try to kill you?" Yep, kill me. Yep, that's what it was. It was totally messed up. Yep. He won't tell her that he kissed her. So I thought that was great. Is this the episode where Phil uses his hand to cut the face off of the spear? That was awesome. I was so happy with that scene. That was great. Now, if we could just repeat that for all the other murder bots that are in the submarine, that'd be great. We find out the Superior framed Quake for the murder of Jeffrey Mace because he smashed his bones to bits, so it would look like Mace was quaked to death. So, yeah, rude. We already talked about AIDA rescuing Mac and Fitz. So, Fitz is able to talk her into channeling her empathy. And, you feel fear, so other people feel fear as well. So save them, do what your heart tells you. He's trying to bring out some good in AIDA. I just don't think there's like less good than there was in Ward in AIDA. And then we have that just heartbreaking conversation with AIDA and Fitz, where he realizes his relationship with Gemma is completely ruined now from what he did in the framework. AIDA wants to understand what Fitz felt for Gemma, and he has a line of what she felt past tense. Because my future with Gemma is dead. You killed that too. Oh, my heart. And Gemma is watching all this on the camera, right? And then we have that line that Agent Williams said of, "There's only room in my heart for one person, for Gemma." And props to the actress who plays AIDA, because this episode, oh my word, she went from rescuing our agents to completely psycho, nutso crazy, screaming. She has that line, "I clawed my way through this world to you." Like she's just, a zombie from a AI graveyard. And and as you guys said, she totally freaks out. And it was terrifying, but it was also like you couldn't turn your eyes away. And the fact that Fitz got out of there alive is a miracle, because she was just, that's when I think she went murder full on 100% murder bot, Terminator mode AIDA. And yeah, not good. And this is where we finally learn that you can't kill AIDA. Like, she just reconstitutes herself like orange juice. Like, she's just comes back. You know, Davis shoots her a whole bunch of times and she's fine. She shows up again. And then we have that really disturbing scene with her and the superior where he's explaining to her why she's so upset. It's called heartbreak. And she wants all of S.H.I.E.L.D. to suffer. She wants Fitz to suffer. This is like the worst breakup ever. But your girlfriend also has superpowers and a murder complex. You know? And then she starts kissing the superior, and then she starts bashing his head into the floor and murders him. You know, so there's that. We're dealing with that. Yeah. So,
yeah.
As I said, AIDA, run in the opposite direction. She is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Like,
oh yeah,
not good.
It's a messed up bit. And yeah, Mallory Jansen kills it this whole season. I mean, she and John Hannah, like, if you couldn't have a better supporting cast for your villains and bit, everything was awesome. Dun, dun, dun. All right. So, yeah, I love the fact as you realize at the beginning here how much time has passed since May has actually been May. Because they're like, yeah, last I remember you were dealing with Robbie. How'd that all end up? Which I thought was kind of a very cool, like, bit. Obviously starting that whole kind of catch-up conversation. But it is kind of an interesting bit of like, oh, God, yeah. It's been a while since May has actually been around of what's going on in the world. So that was kind of cool. Yeah, AIDA dealing with morality, one of the real interesting bits. And I think one of the questions, again, I don't know if they really get into the actual answers, but, you know, was she always programmed for this? Or is she using this to persuade Fitz and everything else is sort of behind it? At what point did the Darkhold start its corruption, and how much is a confusion from programming and how much is her own free will? I think she plays it much more as a victim than she actually is. And I think that's something that Radcliffe had hit on in the framework. And we see how she does her twists and turns and justifications, all coming up to the, and I choose you. Not realizing that's not actually how relationships work. I mean, that's half of it, but then they also have to choose you. This has to be a mutual type of thing. And yeah, when she loses it completely, utterly, in a moment. There's not a pause. There's not a transition. There's not a slope. It's here. Yeah. A to B, A to B. Yeah, the Fitz question here, and he does it. I'm just like Ward. It's such a perfect kind of bring around from our first season and all the stuff that has happened. And is that perfect complaint? Because, yeah, Ward was young Fitz's hero, and then the ultimate villain, and then the guy that he had to take out. And I mean, there was so much layered there that now he can actually identify with his nemesis. I think was just, it's a beautiful little bit, and it's perfect. It's the environment that shaped Ward, not necessarily Ward. And now you can understand it because your changed environment created a dark you.
Is that quote about you either die the hero or you live long enough to be the villain?
Yeah. You get a little Batman, a little Dark Knight in there for you. But again, I love those philosophical questions. And you had mentioned this, Don, the fact that he's now going to have 2 entire lives worth of memory with him to try and weigh out. And they do touch on it a little bit in season 5, and then they kind of undo it afterwards. And yeah, there's so many steps of where they could have gone into 5. Yo-Yo's line to Gemma that no, Gemma is afraid that he still loves someone else, and that's the fear. And yeah, you get that whole scene of seeing how Fitz is responding to that, and his belief in loss. And of course, now we have terrorist Shield again, once again on the run, back into that position. This is the one thing I really didn't like with this choice. It's like, we've already done this bit. You're going backwards now. So yeah, I think next one we get into even the whole like, okay, there's suddenly a meeting. I need you back here in order to meet with the Senate. It's like, seriously? In like a day this is happening? I don't think so. But all in all, yeah, it's good. And of course ends with Yo-Yo going back into the framework to try and get Mac. And then Robbie reappearing and stepping back out of the portal to begin our finale, our final episode of the season, and that is episode 22, World's End, our complete wrap-up. And was it in a satisfying way, Corey? Actually, sorry, I did not hit. Rob, did you want to cover anything, or do you want to just sort of wrap this up and then hit all those points at the end?
I just wanted to touch on that, like, I was agreeing with you about the step backward thing, and that like we kind of talked about what they did to Mace, and that part really fucking pissed me off, because I just imagined them taking his body and literally smashing him up, and that's just that's such a disgraceful thing to do to a person after the fact. That I mean, it's just a line. We don't see it, but you don't have to see it. Just the level of bad. And I mean, I may not like the actor who plays Ivanov and everything, but these villains are like the best villains, because I mean, they're doing such a good job at making you hate them and not even caring about, like, yeah, we know there's some motivations and blah blah blah, but like sometimes people are just evil. And even if, like, we talk about the programming or whatever, AIDA is just listening to Fitz trying to, I mean, it's like listening to someone in like the worst breakup or worst like relationship fight ever. I'm like, just like just trying to say anything to like bring someone back down to earth. It's, I don't know. They're doing a really, really good job. And I also wanted to point out, as Corey said, that the actress who plays her, Mallory, how you could see in her performance the changes that she's been like going through this whole season, and to see the human side, this just full of emotions that are uncontrolled and not been tempered by years that we all have to keep ourselves a part of, make ourselves a part of a society, the ways that we know how to behave. And none of that is here. And it's just all emotion and no like real thought. Like, it's just one thing or the other. Like, it's really, really impressive. Although there was one part where she's running like this, like where she just starts to take off like she looked like one of the Terminators. Like, just, it was really weird. It was a really weird choice. That's all I got.
Yeah, little Tom Cruise inspiration. It's the blade hands that make you go really fast. Excellent. All right, yeah. So episode 22, World's End, our final wrap-up of everything that's happened this season, with a wonderful return from a first arc semi-hero guest hero with Ghost Rider. So, Corey, why don't you lead us off on our final episode?
Yes. Oh, okay. World's End. Well, we find out from Fitz himself that he performed lethal experiments on 24 known Inhumans, including Vijay and Nadir, Lincoln Campbell, Gordon from the Afterlife. He basically starts giving a report to Simmons, and she stops him and says, you know, I'm not here for a report. I just want to know what happened. And again, as Rob said, she's trying to figure out, is the framework, does it feel real? Did it change Fitz? Is he still the Fitz she knew? She's trying to grasp for anything that will bring her previous Fitz back to her. And is, as Yo-Yo mentioned, worried that she's lost him to somebody else. But I do like that she takes his complaints about the bad things about his character and turns those into a strength, because Fitz says something about, you know, everything I try to create just destroys people and kills people, and like I am a villain and I should be locked up. And Simmons is like, great, because that's what we need. We need something that can kill AIDA. So help us figure something out. For once, you causing death and destruction is a good thing. Help us kill AIDA. And yeah, there's a bunch of yo-yos that were left in the framework that helped Radcliffe find Yo-Yo, which I thought was hilarious and funny. We find out the framework's falling apart. They have 12 hours or less to, you know, get everybody out. We learned that Daisy bumps into Robbie and he's escaped through a tear that AIDA created, and whatever the Ghost Rider is hates AIDA just as much, if not more, than the SHIELD agents. And Daisy's kind of like, well, get in line, because there's a line of people that are ready to kill her. But yeah, whatever, we learn that whatever AIDA is made of, it and the Darkhold are the same thing. So AIDA is essentially dark matter now, in her robot IA self. Again, Mac doesn't recognize Yo-Yo. And then AIDA sends Ivan off and I think it's 2 other robots for the inquiry into SHIELD, which, as you guys said, seems highly unlikely considering it's only been 24 hours. I've never seen a government work this fast, but apparently they do in this episode. And yeah, it was frustrating because we have the Daisy bot who shows up and shoots General Talbot, doesn't kill him, but puts him in a coma. And so now SHIELD is back on the defensive again, which was, again, as you guys said, really frustrating because they just managed to get out of that kind of shielded the terrorists, shoot them all down mentality. And now a robot has ruined all of that for them. I love Daisy's line. Ada's like, I thought it would be fun to watch you kill yourself. And Daisy's like, Ada, therapy, just consider it. Like, I love that line. Hilarious. I also was wondering if Talbot's assistant was maybe also an android, because even though Phil is telling her this isn't us, you know, there's an android Daisy bot that came in, we aren't here, we just showed up. She's very adamant about, they did it, lock them up right now. So I don't know.
She's just a Karen, okay? She's just a
Karen. Right. I'm like, she's being so horrible. Hey, so yeah.
Could have been laying the groundwork for a watchdog sympathizer too, depending on where they were initially planning on going. Anyway, go ahead.
So I was like, is she an android? Can we just put her with Ada and get rid of both of them? Or do they just put all the really annoying people with Talbot? Because nobody wants to deal with it. So put all the Karens with Talbot. I love where Daisy and Robbie have that huge fight scene. They take out all the android security guards. They take out the Ivanov bots. And we learn in the scene that Ghost Rider's chain can burn AIDA and cause damage to her. So she's afraid of him. So she yeets out of there ASAP. And Phil shows up and he's like, oh, I missed it. You two together and I missed it. Right? I guess he got the May with May fight and nobody saw that. So he doesn't get to enjoy the Daisy and Robbie fight, I guess. Too much of a good thing. I love that Daisy makes the connection that AIDA is using the same tactics. She's uniting people in fear of Inhumans, but instead of the Cambridge incident, she's using Daisy to be the Cambridge incident.
Right.
And she wants the same fascist state in the framework in the real world. So I thought that was smart of Daisy to like put all those points together and make that conclusion. And Phil's like, we're awake, we're mad, and frankly, we're ready to try anything. I'm tired of hiding, let's take the fight back home. I like that. Mac is just frustrating me. I did not see, what I didn't see coming was that Simmons would use an android of herself to trick AIDA. At first I was very upset in that scene because I thought Simmons actually had been killed or very seriously injured. But, so that whole scene was great. Fitz, again, just trying to talk AIDA down of, there's lots of ways to express emotion, like music. That's a great way. Sad songs. And then AIDA's just like, or smashing heads into the ground. That's my favorite. And it's just like, oh my word. Okay, let's kill her now. She stabs Simmons with, I thought it was like a screwdriver or some kind of pointy object. It's just twisting it into her chest cavity, causing as much pain as possible, making Fitz agree to go with her and do whatever he wants. And then even when Fitz agrees, she then continues and electrocutes Simmons to death. And pushes Fitz up against the wall, and in his ear she's saying, I'm going to kill everybody you love and there's nothing you can do to stop it. Just being a horrible, like a villain we love to hate. But then we realize that Gemma was an android and that she's alive, and the Gemma that was murdered was android Gemma, so that's good. So now we've had Fitz and Gemma both been killed as androids this season, so I feel like they'll need to go through therapy for that somehow, I love that Phil, when he finally shows up, tells AIDA, teamwork is something that you still need to understand, and it's their teamwork that helps them to take out AIDA. So, and Gemma shoots her just for the fun of shooting her with an automatic weapon. I thought that was like, go Gemma. She's basically really mad at this point. So, and we find out that Phil is actually Ghost Rider, and that's how he's able to trick AIDA, get a hold of her. They end up teleporting through a bazillion different locations because she's using all of her powers to try to escape. Falling through, it was very Doctor Strange-esque. Falling through the sky, almost getting hit by traffic. And then she's just burnt to a crisp with the Ghost Rider's chain and his hellfire. And we have the conversation at the end where we find out that Phil has made a deal with the Ghost Rider, or the Spirit of Vengeance. And Robbie says to Phil, I don't envy you. And Phil says that he doesn't want Robbie to tell the team yet. He'll tell them when the time is right. So if anybody wants to delve in a little bit more to that, what deal do we think he made? I mean, all we know is that whatever that fire was, it burnt off the Corrie stuff that was keeping him alive.
Let's hold on that, actually. I'm going to actually take my bit and throw it down to Don and let him follow you up, because that's actually exactly what I want to get into, and I want to do that as kind of a little wrap up part of the thing, because that does get into a couple of interesting points.
So we'll hold that.
So outside of the comedy of the original LMD being fooled by an LMD, which I just was kind of funny. I'm sorry. Did you want to wrap? Did you have anything else to add on to that, or do you want to toss this down to Dom?
The only thing I was adding to that is that, like Phil said, teamwork is so important, and we see that playing out at the end where Daisy and the team won't let Fitz take the rap for everything. Daisy says, you know, I've done that before. I cut my hair or dyed my hair and went all grunge and disappeared for half a season, and it didn't help. I just separated myself from the people that loved me, and I lost myself in the process. So both May and Daisy have tried the tactic of separating themselves from other people. It doesn't work. And May says, if there's a price to pay, we'll pay it together. And Simmons says, amen. I'm like, okay. But yeah, they're going to deal with this as a team. We have that very poetic ending scene of Radcliffe on the beach saying there's no point in having eternal life if he can't spend it with Agnes. And his last line of the world ends not with a bang, but, and then the cup just falls as he disappears from the framework. And then, of course, their meal's interrupted and they don't get pie, which is so sad. But we get to see Enoch.
We do. We do get to see Enoch there for a brief moment. But yeah, Don, what are your thoughts on A World's End?
Another heartbreaking one because this is the thing where Ratcliffe gone, right? But he deserved to go for the things he'd done, for his hubris. He couldn't be allowed to rejoin society given what he had just unleashed. We get Mac losing hope for the second time. Heartbreaking. Absolutely heartbreaking. Hey, kid.
She's like, you're upset. Let me comfort you.
Yeah. So we get Mac losing hope for the second time. We get Ophelia going crazy, trying to bring down the world, as it were. Because she just couldn't deal. Too many emotions, not enough time to process all of it. And instead of, trying to find a way to work within the world that she was given, she's like, all right, well, listen, I don't understand all this. I'm just going to burn it all down. Yeah. We still have kind of the fallout with Fitz coming to grips with who he was, and the things that he did in the framework. Yo-Yo willing to give up her life to be with Mac, which kind of crazy, obviously. Yeah, listen, I don't know if I were in that position, if I would even fathom trying to do the same thing. I'd probably just be smacking the hell out of Mac if I were Yo-Yo, and just be like, hey, look, I'm just gonna sit here and Yo-Yo power you until you wake up. It would just be a series of running back and forth with slaps to the face until you wake up in the real world. And when I had first seen it, I was like, are they going to kill off Mac? Is he so distraught that he really is just like, I'm not coming back? I mean, because when he's holding hope and all of the, furniture and stuff is disappearing throughout the house, and she's like, he's like, look, I'm not going to let you go. Not going to let you go ever. And then, you pan down and she's just gone. Like the look on his face, that was just, oh my God, how could you do that? How, like, just absolute cruelty. Um, and so, when Daisy is like, oh man, I don't see Mac, he's gone. I was just like, oh, come on, really? Mac was the audience. You no, don't do that to Mac. He deserves better. You already did this to Mace. Don't do it to Mac too. Um, lucky we stopped seriously. Sorry, cat's like your head butting me in my chin right now. So yeah, it was one of those things where it's like, oh come on, you can't do this to us, but they brought him back. The team is back together. Phyllis Ghost Rider for a little bit. Awesome bait and switch. Awesome bait and switch because yes, here we have AIDA who's like, yeah, I'm the smartest, I'm the most powerful, yada yada yada. Never thinking that, the spy agency would be able to pull off something so duplicitous. You know, no, you have the power to leave. You should go as far away as possible, especially if you know a flaming headed demon that can kill you is hunting you down. So that was just absolutely brilliant on their part, to pull that off. Um, excuse me, pardon me. All right, kid, you really need to. He's going to get heavy now. Um, yeah, it was brilliant on their part to execute that kind of move. Thank you. um, so yeah, I was glad that they were able to subvert expectations in a good way. You know, not like having Phil Coulson take Captain America's shield and uh toss it over his shoulder like uh, um so yeah, that was definitely a good way to go in terms of storytelling. And then we find out also that Ghost Rider, has or knows how to channel the same portal like Doctor Strange. That was kind of cool there. Um, Too bad, we didn't get more Ghost Rider, but at least we got at least we got this one, so that was pretty decent. And the death of Ada, brutal, brutal. But in the words of that great American poet Samuel L. Jackson, yes, she deserved to die, and I hope she burns in hell. Because yeah, for what she was doing, I'm sorry, there was absolutely no way of redeeming uh Ophelia, aka Ada, um, aka Madam Hydra. There was no redeeming her whatsoever. She had to go. Had to go. Had to go. So yeah, that's all I got for this one. Agent Stone, you got anything for this one here?
Not really. No, I mean, I liked how. I mean, I wanted her to suffer more.
Yeah, was fast.
I mean, I thought the effect was good of jumping around with Ghost Rider. But like a lot of Ghost Rider kills, they happen pretty fast. I did like that he picked her up and slammed her to the ground and there was nothing left but ash. I thought that was a nice finishing move, kind of a Mortal Kombat move.
We did see her face though, like she looked.
Yeah, we
was
saw
Jet
her
Fitz,
eye.
and she was
Her
like,
eye widens as she screams in terror. It's
Yeah.
I'm a sick person, and I wanted her to suffer more. It's
I
like
understand that.
it's like watching Joffrey die on Game of Thrones. Spoilers. That scene could have gone on another 5 minutes. I've been fine with it. Other than that, a classic Phil move is that the bad guy's in the room and he gets to talk, and it's just another illusion that you think I'm this one thing, and guess what? I am Ghost Rider. You know, like it was just another turn on it. And one other thing, and I guess it's just been bothering me the whole time, is why do they keep coming up with all these LMDs so fast?
Yeah.
There's just like all of a sudden there's just a Gemma LMD laying around. Where are they making them? Where's this factory? Like, is there like a case, like a tanning bed, like the size of a tanning bed, where they just got everybody's models in there? They just pop one out like a 3D printer, except like moving light speed. I kept wondering that throughout the entire. Like we saw the Daisy bots, right? We saw them. So at least Daisy bot goes in and shoots Talbot, fine. But like, it is as satisfying as it was to see Gemma get to shoot AIDA with an Uzi. That was the question that was popping in my mind the most.
Where are all those Gemma bots or all those Daisy bots now?
And again, I guess it's weird that I'm talking about Ivanov, but he got away.
Mm-hmm.
There's a head out there controlling a bunch of that's still out there. I don't think we ever revisit this. So Ivanov gets well, I mean, I guess maybe we have to think of it like, does it need any kind of nutrition? Does it have like a system built? Like, does somebody have to check on it after these plants fail? Is he just this head like in a jar going, oh God, nobody's here to help me, like, and just going to slowly die? Or is he like, these are the questions that I'll be asking myself now that I wasn't asking before. So yeah, he gets away. She does not. And, Shield is now, back on the run. But it was such another great ending. You know, a typical who's hungry. I could eat, and that's a scene like I would love to have somebody like see some artwork. I would love to get a really nice art picture of them eating like their meal and have like the Last Supper, except for our Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. at a diner. As time stops and we get Enoch behind them. And at the time, we didn't know what was going on. And him waking up in space, which I remember at the time thinking, that's really cool. Stop the sightseeing, time to get to work, like right back whatever's been going on has been going on for a little while now, and next season we're going to find out what all that is. And then we found out what it was. And that's a whole other story. But the whole story of season 4 is phenomenal. It starts and bookends with Ghost Rider. I mean, I feel like it's a little bit of a cheat that they just have the practically omnipotent Ghost Rider come in and solve the problem for them. But at least they were involved. At least it involved some trickery on their part. Ghost Rider could have just been like, no, you guys just go to your Senate meetings and just kill her himself. Because he would have eventually caught her. He's like the monster from It Follows. Don't matter how far away you go, he will find you eventually. You can only teleport so many times. He's going to be right there eventually. But the events that happen in this that carry over for the rest of really do carry over for the rest of the season. And the one thing I wanted to talk about, because I mentioned May being the linchpin. of this whole season. And it really is the fault of Radcliffe and AIDA not making LMD May know what her purpose was.
Yes.
None of this, so much of this hinges on the fact that they kept everything from her and let her feel and start to feel like she really was May. If you think about all that, so many things do not happen if they just do that, make that one change. And it just again shows that like how Melinda May is always going to be Melinda May and will save the day eventually, even if like every show has, you know, characters go through their ups and downs and struggles and what am I doing? But their flaw and not realizing that they make a robot that they think is going to work for them, but they've made it her. They've let it believe it's her. And eventually when that thing decides that she is her, she's going to make the right decision as what Melinda May would do. And because of that, I really do feel like everything else falls apart. Takes a while, but it all falls apart to me right there.
Yeah, no, I think you hit it right on the head. Yeah, that point when Radcliffe leaves her and says, "You weren't made to last," and just abandons, like, oh, this is gonna bite you. And you're right, made her too real for their own good. Okay, yeah. So I was holding the last spot because you guys have pretty much hit on all of the big stuff. The heartbreaking bit of Mac losing hope again. The frustrating bit of that, the awesomeness of many of the fight scenes. You get the LM Daisy shooting Talbot again, which kind of gets us into an annoying arc later on. You get the Quake Ghost Rider fight versus Superior Bots, which was awesome. Lots of cool stuff. But so much of what ends up coming forward hinges on the deal with Ghost Rider. And that's sort of what I wanted to touch on here. We do see Joel Stoffer playing Enoch at the very end. So we do have kind of that transition scene. From what I understand, the shot into space was a cold pitch without any follow-up. Maybe perhaps they're looking for their next base and it ends up being in space, or it goes to the lighthouse and this is transition. Some people had thought this was a move into sort of sword territory. But if we look at what the dialogue between Robbie and Coulson is, Coulson's like, man, I'm glad he went back into you. That was horrible. I can't imagine what he's like. It says, you know why he made the deal in the first place, right? I do. You gonna tell the others? No, and I ask that you don't either. I will when I'm ready, or I will when it's time. There's one little bit that says, Robbie says, I don't envy you. And Coulson says back, I was gonna say the same thing to you. That's really the only hint that's given on. And we know that season 5 didn't get renewed until later. They kept the order count. They reduced the budget. There's a lot of playoff into the idea of the writer burning out the Kree serum, though if anybody understands Ghost Rider, that's not really how Ghost Rider's powers work. That's not what he does. So in many ways, it doesn't make sense. The thing I thought is that, okay, Coulson is the lead, so it has to happen with him. And you want to get some cliffhanger ideas for the audience. But the writer feeds off of pain. Fitz probably would have been the best one to take the writer in this, or in a way, Gemma, because both of them have stuff and was an easier sort of grab on or guarantee to get close to AIDA, specifically because they had the Gemma bot. And I'm thinking they were talking about trying to scan and replace them. So there might have been an empty GemmaBot on the base that was awaiting activation and they used. But yeah, that was one of those other reaches like, wow, you got that up and going and programmed and okay. So ignoring what we ended up seeing in season 5, there's a lot of interesting places we go. Rob, you mentioned the Superior. We do see him later, but it's like a cut down version. It's 1 or 2 episodes and then he's killed. And honestly, I was upset when I reviewed that because I'm like, you guys basically just killed a main villain and had no setup for it. In fact, you even talk about his head in a jar somewhere else, and now it's on his body, and now he's... Yeah, Babaro's mentioning maybe he was supposed to be MODOK. The Superior's already an actual character in this form with the headless body controlling, controlling robot bodies of himself around. He probably has robot versions of himself helping to care for his head, wherever that is. But we have VJ, which ends up getting dropped. We never see him again. Yeah. We have Fitz's whole Dark Doctor arc, which again, they touch on briefly in 5 and then sort of reverse it by killing Fitz. There's the idea of Sword. There's the idea of going to space. I don't know. 5 to me, what they ended up doing was a bit of an overshoot for what they had. Where were you guys really hoping this was going to go? And I just want to throw this out just for a couple of minutes before we wrap things up. Any kind of thoughts of this or where you were hoping stuff versus where it was going to go? Because I think they really tweaked what they had in order to justify where they ended up going on later on.
To put it simply, I'll just jump in. Anything was better than what we got.
Okay, I won't argue with that.
I would have thought that like something along the lines of what you're saying is like they were taken and they would be like in some kind of situation like a Last Starfighter or something like that, where it's like only you people can save us from this thing or something. Like we're bringing you to a place. We've heard the tales of Coulson and his SHIELD agents and blah, blah, blah. And we brought you somewhere and you're the only ones that can help us. And we could run into some problems like that. I never expected us to be talking about, I would never expect us to go where we were going. But like when you put all the other pieces together about budgets and other things and we, I remember your reviews and I remember the 2 I think I did. And I was just like, I don't even know how many I did. I think it was 2, maybe 3 or 4. It just felt like they didn't know what to do themselves. And they opened the door to too many possibilities at the same time. And I just, when you went from just like, how do you go from like set the high water mark? Maybe it was like almost like you said, overreaching, like we gotta like up this. And then once all these other factors came in, it just kind of imploded in on itself in a way. And that's not a detriment to like all the actors were doing their jobs. Everybody was giving it at least our main cast was. I can't say so much for the side characters that we saw in season 5. They all were actors that were hired to do a job and they did it. It's in my opinion, like my opinion don't really matter as far as like were they successful in playing those roles? But that's again,
sure.
Come see, come saw. But once that was over and once we started, when we finally got season 6, and I know I'm kind of jumping ahead, that at least made me feel like, oh God, we've righted the ship somehow. But I don't know what happened in between 4 and 6. Like after whatever happened at the end of season 5, how did they right the ship after that? That's what I want to know. Like, because they didn't really change much of the budget. I think the budget stayed the same.
Yeah.
I think going to space was just a bridge too far. And if you don't really have everything nailed down, if you don't have everything laid out, and because it was late being picked up again, you have to rush even further. And it showed. It really showed. I mean, the sets were poorly put together. They looked like just repurposed old sets that we could just see, oh, like I've seen that hallway before, just painted different, But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. There's a lot to be said about season 5, and I don't want to be the only one who talks about it, so I'll shut up.
Yeah, Corrie?
I found the space arc with the Kree and Gemma being the like pitting powered people against each other in a kind of Roman arena, and Gemma being a slave and the whole humanity enslaved. It was just very dark, and we had already gone through a framework of Hydra ruling the world. I really wanted something a little bit lighter. I mean, in the first episode or two, it kind of had a horror vibe to it. So I'm like, oh, okay, this could be like Alien or, but then it just became so depressing. And so, I don't know, it was giving me like World War II concentration camp vibes, which I do not appreciate. And I really don't want to be in that headspace for an entire season.
Mm-hmm.
So I really didn't like the season. I watched it because I liked the characters. I watched it for Phil and Melinda and Gemma, and
sure,
that's why I watched it. I wanted to murder Cassius multiple times. I just and it wasn't even a enjoyable villain. Like AIDA, at least like she was a villain you love to hate, but Cassius was just a villain you just hated. And it wasn't that he wasn't doing a bad job of it. It was just after dealing with AIDA, I was done with, I wanted something different. And this was different, but it was a bit too dark for me, like emotionally dark.
Sure.
I liked when we started time traveling again and we were jumping through decades in the later seasons, like the 30s and the 50s, and Daniel Souza shows up. That was like, okay, I'm good with that. Enoch was great. Enoch saved all of this, but yeah, the whole blue Kree alien taking over the world, slavery and humanity and the earth blowing up, that was just a bit too much for me.
Yeah. Well, I think I had mentioned when we did our LMD discussion last is kind of, I was just theorizing off the top of my head, is because we also have all of these Inhumans that are being more focused on. If this could have been a potential Inhumans connection, the series that was being developed at the time and then ended up going in its different and more horrible directions. But again, it's just one of those, because space does require a certain effects. You're always like, man, the nice thing about, I think, what this season did is, even though it got fantastical, it still stayed relatively grounded in the world. The framework was just a variation of our world. The LMDs were robots, but they looked like people, and they could do it with the way that they were designed. And then you've got the Superior later on with the multiple versions of himself that he could control. Even Ghost Rider, beautiful constant effects with the flaming skull, some of the best Ghost Rider stuff that we've seen, in my opinion, but still relatively small scale in the scope of everything else. When you go to space and you have larger aliens and things, you are working against an expectation that Marvel has brought in. And what this show is, especially in this season, been able to do is give us a lot of generally very realistic, grounded looking effects that make us buy this fantastical world. And yeah, when I saw Phil in space and let's stop seeing, time to get back to work, I was kind of excited. Where are they going to go? And I think this is one of the downsides of one of the pitfalls of the way that this show ended up being supported by the network. Now, hashtag not my Cree. Yeah, thank you. I agree. Is that because they had to kind of wait season to season to get their renewal and their approval, and it was often done in May, like after, right when you're starting your new things. Usually most renewals are done earlier so you can get that planning stage, not right before you're supposed to go into filming for the fall. I think it always kind of hampered in the fact that they were able to pull off so much in this season. I don't know. Did success go, yeah, they could get away with anything? We know that Disney was at the time pushing for them to keep Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. on the air because it was the one big Marvel show on ABC. But yeah, I think it was such a topper in this season, and they gave us some hints of where they could go. I think the biggest mistake that they made, and I don't know if it was originally set in this idea with the Ghost Rider, is killing Phil Coulson again. I think that was the biggest mistake that this show made. If we get to the point of talking about season 5, we'll get into that a little bit more. But that was the one thing that annoyed me so much. We just had these amazing arcs and amazing character developments. And I don't know, I guess like making S.H.I.E.L.D. a terrorist organization again felt like a bit step backwards. Anybody have any other wrap-ups or thoughts before we say goodbye to everyone?
So the only loose ends we have are VJ Nadir. We never find out what happens to him. We don't find out what happens with the Superior. Were there any other loose ends that we didn't tie up this season? That anyone can remember?
Those were the big ones. And again, we have the hint of the deal, which is sort of an obvious hint. But I think those are the only real kind of...
Sorry, I was just going to say Blake. Did we ever get any finishing information on Blake? Agent Blake?
Oh, no. Blake. Yeah, no, we never heard from Blake again after, what was that, last season? Season 3? Was it 3 the last time that we saw him? No, we never hear him again. Titus Welliver's own show was doing very well, and he probably just didn't have time to do any guesswork. I know with a lot of this stuff, it's often who can they get on the schedule that they have.
Because he was in one of the newspapers that Phil had clipped out in the framework.
Oh, I missed that.
It said like he was somebody Blake and a Humans for First movement advocate honored at something or other. I paused it and read all this stuff. But yeah, it was basically he had been praised and honored by Hydra for his work, like preserving humanity and being anti-inhuman. So kind of a reinvention of the Watchdogs.
Sure.
But that was the only reference we had to him. And then there was a doctor that was mentioned as well. But he was a Marvel character, but he wasn't familiar to me when I looked it up.
All right. Don, any thoughts there?
So, obviously, season 4, probably the pinnacle of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 5, kind of a mixed bag. With the whole going to the future, multiverse, and Deke. Deke. So, I mean, listen, like we're obviously going to get to season 5, so I don't want to delve too deep into it, but you know, I guess, was this the Lincoln of Agents of Shield? Man, I mean, that's about the best way that I can put it. Is, season 5 was the Lincoln Campbell of Agents of Shield. So I'm gonna leave it right.
There's some strong words, my man.
That's really good. That is a really good way to put it. I mean, because I think we all like Deke now, but like when they introduced him, it was like Cousin Oliver on the Brady Bunch.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
all of a sudden there's a new person that's like trying to be all the team. And it's just like I outwardly just outright rejected him at face value. I was like, get this guy away from me. I in the end, I guess they've developed the character long enough, and they, but yeah, I don't know. Like, yeah, this season, it's hard to go from like where we started. Like, and I even think about my own journey with this show and making that last video Monday felt like the end of something really great. Like, I finally, I haven't released them, but you know what I mean? Like, it was just that, but there's an emptiness now that I feel because I don't know what I'm going to do when it comes to handling anything else. Cause I already reviewed season 6 and 7. You already reviewed 6 and 7, 5, 6, 7. You've reviewed like all of it, right?
I started in 3. So okay. I didn't review seasons 1 and 2, except for the discussions we've done here. So yeah.
So it's just like, there's this part of me that's like, not just watching the show, but like doing these and talking about Agent Carter and everything. And even though it took us a while to get here, there's like this kind of feeling of like, we're about to, whatever we discuss next about this is just not going to be at the same level of like talking about how great so-and-so is in this part and all the, just awesome moments. And it's like, it just feels like we're going to be more like, so here we go, guys, like, and
I'm sure we can find something good.
I'm going to guess they won't be 3 hours long. We won't have that much material to talk about.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I could practically just be like, it sucked and then go moving on. Like, but I know that's not fair. That's not really that fair. There are good moments in season 5.
There really are.
Like, there are. They're really hard to miss. You want to know why? Because there's so much bad.
Are you guys enjoying our season 5 preview?
Yeah. So
I'm sure there's good.
Get ready for all the Ruby love. Oh my gosh, guys!
No!
Hear me just gush about Ruby and her mom. It's gonna be the best thing ever.
Hashtag worst thing ever. Nope, didn't like Ruby.
But there, we will talk about the good. There is good there. It's just when they got back. I'll say this: when they got back to Earth, despite the Powerpuff Girl, it was nice that they got back to Earth. It felt more grounded. Literally.
Yeah. I was gonna say literally. Dan the Wiz in the chat. Honestly, love season 5. Second favorite after season 4. Good,
wow. Dan the Wiz. You, my friend, have a very interesting taste.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, that's the great thing about this show. Everybody can get something out of it, and they get different things. And yeah, there's still great writing in this. There's still an amazing cast that does bring it every episode and every season. So there's always that. And certainly by even the later seasons, they're just having a good time. But I think that will wrap up our Season 4 discussion, 3 videos, all long, mucho info, a lot of love, some great discussions here in the chat as well. Want to thank all of you for joining us. Going to send one last little loop around the room so everybody can tell you where you can find them and what they're doing. Corrie, let's kick things off with you.
Hi. Well, you can find me on my website, which is Literature with Charm, or you can find me online at Biblical Bliss. That's my YouTube channel. And if you Google it, all my stuff will pop up. You can also find me as CL Shoemaker. It's my author page, webpage. And my only question is, if we could bring AIDA back for the framework, why couldn't we bring back a Mace and a Trip AI?
Because they're made out of evil dark matter that the Ghost Rider would have to destroy. Damn.
Oh. But we have their brain scans. So now that we have an AI filled, it's good. Maybe. Season 8.
Fair enough. Don, what about you? Where can people find you? What you doing?
Firstly, Madam Shoemaker, how dare you forget Ward?
Oh,
shame.
Nice.
Shame.
Mace, Ward, good Ward, and Trip.
Yeah, anyway, yeah, so listen, for the most part, you can find me here with the rest of the agents. And if not, you can check out some old videos on my channel, Adon of Ice and Fire, or you can follow me on Twitter, which, you know, like, I wouldn't suggest it, but if you want to, it's DonWilli. And yeah, look, thank you as always to Mr. Darren Jakes for having me.
Always a blast to have you, Don. What about yourself, Rob? Where can people find you? What you doing?
Well, when I'm not randomly throwing batarangs at people who aren't wearing masks, you can find me making videos on my channel, Smirking Gun Plays, where right now we are doing a lot of comic book stuff, like literally comic book reviews. We're talking Walking Dead. We're still spreading out our Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 4 reviews. I'm just having fun. I'm just enjoying doing whatever I feel like I'm doing right now. I'm waiting for a special kind of show to talk about. I need and it just hasn't popped up yet. Although What We Do in the Shadows Season 3 just dropped, that is worth watching. Otherwise, you can catch me on my Twitch channel, Smirking Gun Plays, where I'm doing a platinum run for Lego Marvel Superheroes, which Clark Gregg does the narration over most of that game. You can even play as Clark, as Agent Coulson. It's fun hearing his voice throughout the entire game. We're also doing all the Arkham games because I never finished Arkham Knight. We're playing Witcher 3. We're doing a lot. And yeah, you can find me on Twitter at reviews_gun, where I'm usually trying not to make too much of a mess over there. But sometimes I can't help myself.
Wondrous. And of course, I'm D. This is my channel, D's Reviews, where, of course, we've been doing regular discussions on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 5 will be coming up. Be sure to subscribe, hit that notifications. I will leave notes in the community channel when we get some plans to get that dropped off. There are lots of Marvel shows coming up. You're going to be sure to find discussions with at least some of these people here also on this channel. But definitely this week, you can find me over on Alyssa Jean's channel, where I'm going to be talking about this week's What If, which I believe drops in about 2 hours for all of those that are staying up late. It looks like zombies. I'm very excited. And speaking of zombies, if you do like The Walking Dead, still watching it, check out this guy's reviews of this season of Walking Dead, because I'm not doing them anymore. Anyway, that's going to be it for us. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and we will catch you all next time. Thank you, and bye-bye.